of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday show.
I'm like, shit.
It's hump day, man.
I do know that. I do know that.
Yep.
Kind of. I just forgot for a second.
Saturday's right around the corner. I get paid today.
Yeah, that's right, because it's the first tomorrow.
Yeah, I
isn't it?
get paid tonight. Probably in my account.
And then we gotta
I'll see how rich I am.
Then we gotta pay the fucking mortgage.
Gonna pay bills, yeah. Pay off credit card debts and shit.
So,
Yeah.
just comes in, it goes right back out again.
Yeah.
At least mine mostly does.
I got that new machine. I don't know if I told you all. I got that new machine now. I got that fucking hip abductor machine.
Yeah.
It was a $700 machine, and I got it for just at $400. Jen was in there working on it. You can spread your legs open. I got a trainer to spread her legs up and get to spread the legs open. You do it that way.
Well, it trains you to close them
you can
also.
flip around so you can close them.
So
right.
if you ever piss me off, I'll be like ka-chonk, and I'll be able to do it really hard.
Builds up your thigh and your booty meat and stuff. Got that, and then going along with that with that squat machine. Got the lower leg fucking stations working out. Are all worked out already. They even got a hip thrust machine I'm looking at. It's only $200 something. I was thinking about that. I got room for it. We'd have a fucking complete gym. I just don't have pull downs.
Yeah.
That's in rows. Can't do row. But I can see what there's a machine for that. Anyway, we're just kind of killing time a little bit. Everybody gets in here. Looks like people are starting to show up. Going to be a serial killer story today.
Yeah, I just said another one I haven't heard of. I'd heard this dude's name, but I didn't really know a lot about him. I think what happened, because this motherfucker, I'm actually surprised he's not better known in the U.S. I kind of know why. Because this was a dude, just as a general outline, that did a murder at least one murder, back in the 70s. And then he got locked up for a long time. And then he was paroled, before he should have been, clearly. And went on to kill many, many more people. This is also, according to some authors, the first international or global serial killer, because he killed people in at least 4 countries, including the United States. And, yeah, this is a wild fucking story. The reason he's not better known in the U.S., most people have speculated, is that when his crimes were happening and when his trial was happening, it was right around the same time in the U.S. that the O.J. Simpson shit was going on, and the Rodney King thing. So that was kind of like taking up the entire news cycle.
Yeah, I've never heard of this guy.
So like an Austrian serial killer who happened to kill some sex workers also in the United States, I guess didn't really rate as much national news as it would have otherwise.
They probably said something about it.
I'm sure they probably did.
Didn't get anybody's attention.
Probably
didn't get any media traction.
Yeah. That's probably what it was, because there was so much other shit going on. Because this story is fucking wild. This is kind of I just like a lot of the documentaries and stuff like that about him, but focus a lot, and as well they should, on this dude should not have been let out, obviously. Because I kind of feel like this, I'm a big advocate of some people, depending on what crime they did, can be rehabilitated. Like, obviously, because some people go to prison and it's like they come out and they don't go back again, you know what I mean? But usually if it's just something minor or not that big a deal, you know what I mean? This dude, the first crime that he did when he in the 70s was so kind of fucked up, was pretty fucked up, and I was just kind of thinking that dude probably should never come out. I mean, you know what I mean? And as it turns out, everyone that said that was right about that, because literally like a couple of months after he was let out, he started killing people again. He's thought to have killed at least 12 that they know of, mostly sex workers, but not all. All women. He didn't kill any men. And he's also just an arrogant, narcissistic douchebag. As you can probably tell from the image that I used for the thumbnail, because when I
Yes.
saw that, I was like, oh my god, there's a lot of pictures of him, because he was actually, again, spoiler alert, in Austria, he was actually quite famous after he got let out, which I'll get into in a bit. But that picture there, I'm like, look at that smug motherfucker. I was like, does he think he's Truman Capote or fucking Thomas Wolfe or something like that with that fucking white suit? Get the fuck out of here with that.
I think he thought he was Hannibal Lecter.
Well, that wouldn't have been a thing, I guess. Well, I guess it would have
Was
been.
it around? Okay.
I thought he was trying to look like Truman Capote, because that's a very Truman Capote outfit, and he was, you know, a writer, and he was like very well known in like, you know, literary circles. So I kind of feel like that's probably
Yeah, the O.J. Simpson trial. I guess Silence of the Lambs wasn't out yet, was it?
Silence of the Lambs. Well, when did the book come out? I think the book came out in '89, I want to say, or '88. The movie came out in 1990, 1990 or 1991.
Yeah. So it might have been out. The book might have been out.
Yeah, I think because the book came out like a couple years prior. Chloe Collins says, "Love you guys. We love you too. I hope y'all cover the updates on Lisk." And Karen Reed soon. Yeah, that's right. Would like to hear your takes. Yeah, we probably need to do that. And there were some updates on the Asha Degree missing persons case too, which we covered like a long time ago. Not any huge, like they didn't find her body or anything like that, but there were some developments in the case. So I kind of wanted to cover that too. I don't know how we're gonna do it. Like we'll just, I don't know. I can take notes on it. And we can just do it, because I always do polls. And it's like if I put it in the poll and it doesn't win, then it's like, you know, it gets older and older. So, but I'm gonna write it all down anyway. We'll figure out some way to do it. We'll figure out some way to do it, because we need to do updates on some of this stuff. Yeah, CB said he was doing life without parole, and they thought he was safe to get parole after he did a book. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, 2 books, but you know what I mean. He killed within 2 weeks of getting parole. Yeah, pretty much. So
Well, of course.
he learned nothing, because this motherfucker, like I said, the shit that he did before he went to prison, like he only got convicted of 1 murder, but it was a pretty brutal one. And it was this very clearly a sexual motivation, a very serial killery kind of murder. And I'm pretty sure that dudes like that cannot be rehabilitated.
No, especially if they kill one and then they let them out.
Yeah.
And it's a sexual crime. They're like, oh, okay, so they want me to do it again. They know I'm going to do it again. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it again. It's all right.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to rationalize it.
Yeah.
They know how awesome I am. They know I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them what they want. It's part of their sexual orientation.
Yeah. Like, I don't think dudes like this, like I said, other crimes, you know, some of those people can be rehabilitated. Because, like I said, people come out of prison and they, you know, just go on to live normal lives and stuff. But dudes like this,
if it's sexual, those guys are the same. Those guys.
I don't think you can fix that.
No.
I don't think you can fix that.
No. It's part of their sexual orientation.
Because they're always going to have that proclivity.
Yeah. It can calm down if they're real old.
Yeah.
After they pass 50, a lot of them chill out. Because their testosterone levels fucking declined. Went through male menopause, so the sex drive isn't there.
Yeah, so they don't really feel... I'm sure they still think about it, but they don't feel the same, like,
they don't have
burning
the same,
need to do it anymore.
They probably don't have they don't get off on it as much.
Right.
They don't feel sexy.
Yeah. They don't look sexy either.
They don't look sexy. They don't feel sexy. Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
I think that's why BTK went out the way he did. He realized he was kind of like petering out.
Yeah.
And he figured it was time for him to fucking take credit for all the shit that he did.
Yeah, he wanted one last hurrah.
Yeah.
He's like, they're not talking about me anymore.
Yeah, they don't talk about it anymore.
Like, I can't actually do it anymore because I'm too, like, old and flabby or whatever.
Yeah,
he was pretty flabby to start with.
He was becoming a has-been. His sex drive wasn't there, so he was just reminiscing about the old days. Kind of like the way a guy would reminisce about what he did in high school, you know, with chicks and shit like that. You know, or for our generation.
Yeah.
The new generation, I don't think they do anything in high school. But according to the statistics. But that's what he's doing. He's reminiscing about his fucking... How awesome it was.
His glory days.
Yeah, his glory days, yeah. And I got him caught. Subconsciously, he probably...
I think he wanted to get caught.
Well, yeah, and I also think he just wanted to experience danger. The danger of getting caught.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think he was maybe getting, like, a little bored and complacent.
Getting too bored, yeah. I don't think he wasn't going to do his sexual thing on him. We're talking about BTK now. I don't think it was in him anymore. But he could enjoy the thrill of almost being caught and talking to the cops.
Yeah.
That's how they caught him.
Because I think he got a little bit of a chub from that, too.
Yeah.
You know? That's the only thing that gets his little pecker to
Something in his unconscious,
move.
though, might have been wanting to get caught
I kind of think
so he could get credit.
Yeah.
It's not about punishment. It's about getting credit and recognition. Because they're proud of it.
Yeah.
Dudes like BTK, oh yeah, he thought what he did was like an awesome masterpiece.
Was amazing, yeah.
Amazing, yeah. They love it.
Which is, yeah, like I said, I read that book of like all those letters that he sent to that woman, and I was just kind of like, this dude is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like the way his mind works is insane.
They're just not built like normal dudes.
Clearly, because I'm reading that going, it's just his way of thinking is like so alien.
A normal dude would be like what cars and what motorcycles he built and shit like that, what he owned in the past. It's gonna be like, this guy's no, it's like who he killed and how he did it.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like similar, but it's like
but
way more fucked up.
What beautiful women did I kill? I killed that beautiful woman. I called this beautiful woman. Yeah, it's just, and it was part of his fucking sex drive.
Yeah, CB says about this motherfucker, Jack Unterweger. It's like the sad thing is women thought he was good looking and would have had sex with him, but he raped them anyway. Yeah, here's the thing: this dude had no problem at all getting women. I suspect though, as
he wasn't into that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not. What I was going to say was that I suspect from some of the details of some of the crimes, and I'm not like a genius or anything. Like I've heard other criminal psychologists and stuff say this. I suspect that he struggled with impotence.
Maybe, yeah.
Because some of the details of the crimes lead me to believe that he could not get an erection.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get into that.
Even during the crime?
Yes.
He could? Okay.
So I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, but like just reading some of the stuff, I said this sounds like a dude that's
getting
like
frustrated.
impotent and he's getting like frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I think that might have been a big motivator. And the thing about it, a lot of the shit about, because we'll get into like his childhood and shit like that, but a lot of the shit about his childhood, I think is largely bullshit. Because most of it comes from him, and he had a vested interest in making everyone feel sorry for what a shitty childhood he had. So, because, you know, other journalists and stuff have gone behind and said, well, no, that doesn't sound right, or like that probably didn't happen, or whatever. So, I think most of the stuff that he said about his upbringing was not true.
A lot of times they lie.
Yeah.
About their upbringing. Like Henry D. Lucas lied about
that bitch, I don't think
he
he told the truth about fucking anything.
He couldn't tell the truth. There was just something wrong with him. He was a pathological liar.
Which is a crazy...
Yeah.
I know some people have that, but I'm just kind of like, that's fucking crazy to me.
They want to turn everything up to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. These go up to 11.
Exactly. It's just like, I don't know. I don't get it. But maybe they can't help it. Maybe it's like a mental illness. But...
I think they're trying to give the audience what they want, and it's like they're putting on a show, and they're the star.
Yeah.
So they're going to just tell all kinds of fantastical shit. That's why even ones that did fucking horrible shit, like the guy with the murder castle, what was his name?
H.H. Holmes?
H.H. Holmes. He confessed to a bunch of shit. There's no evidence he ever did it.
Yeah,
I think he made a lot of that shit up.
He did horrible shit, but
Right.
I think some of that stuff was fabricated.
He got off on fucking repulsing people and scaring them.
Yeah.
And fucking horrifying them. So that was just part of his thing. So
like an edgelord.
So he would just I think he would just made up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of them do that. Especially ones that are motivated by attention-seeking behavior, wanting everyone to think they're smarter, better, all this
More
other...
deadly.
Yeah, like they want to be super scary. Like, you know, like fucking Ramirez with his stupid satanic shit.
Yeah, and if you give that guy an opportunity to lie and to invent a bunch of free crimes that never happened, he's going to invent all those free murders.
Yeah, why not?
You go, why? Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't kill 12. No, fuck no, I killed 150. You know,
yeah.
he's got, now he can just lie forever.
Now,
make up shit.
This dude, I will, even though he seemed like an arrogant sack, he denied pretty much everything, like when they caught him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they come in all different shapes. Some of them will deny everything like they're ashamed
of.
Other ones are just, they want to talk about it. It's weird.
But the weird thing about it, though, is that maybe he'd had an outlet because, like, he wrote a book, like, kind of about his life. And this was after his first murder. He kind of downplayed that a lot, though. Like, he said all the other crimes that because he did a bunch of other petty crimes, like when he was growing up and shit, which I don't doubt. Because that's not that unusual. But he very specifically downplayed the violence against women and the sexual shit and all of that. So that leads me to believe that he might have had a slightly different motivation than some of the killers that were, like, proud of it, like you said, that would, like, invent murders or take credit for ones that they didn't do. You know what I mean? Because some of them will do that. This dude, I don't know. It's like I said, I can't... He just... To me, he seems like a real arrogant douche. I think he got off on the fact that he was fooling everybody because everyone thought that he had been rehabilitated. So I think that amused him. That he was doing all this shit, like, on the DL while he was, like, attending parties and giving book lectures and stuff like that, and everyone thought he was a great guy. So I think he got off on that. I think he got off on, like, the double life that he was smarter than them, maybe.
Oh,
but
sure.
So I think that might have been part
power,
of his
prestige, and
and
how
he was very
perceived.
into control. He wanted to control the narrative. And I think that's kind of where most of the shit was coming from. But like I said, he really did downplay a lot of the violence, the sexual violence and stuff like that he perpetrated. And most of his later murders, I don't think he ever actually confessed to them. Like, he just continued to assert his innocence until the very end.
Yeah, they don't. It's funny that they have enough. He has enough conscious awareness or enough awareness to where that if you put those crimes on him, he looks bad.
Mm.
He doesn't want to look bad. He wants to look good.
Yeah.
As opposed to guys like BTK. He wanted to look bad. And H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, CB points out he was reporting on his own crimes for a newspaper he was working for. Yeah, we'll get into that.
I guess it's kind of
Like I said, I think he was getting...
If the dude was gay, it's like the difference between being out and in the closet. The dudes that don't fucking confess to it, they're in the closet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is kind of like that.
Yeah, H.H. Holmes and fucking BTK, they're out.
Yeah.
They're being liberated by talking about it.
Yeah.
Look at me, you know.
Yeah. But like I said, they're also, like, really delusional because they think that what they did was awesome and, like, they're super awesome and everybody loves them.
Yeah.
The thing about this dude was that people did actually love him. Like I said, they thought that he'd been rehabilitated. He had no problem at all getting women. He had tons and tons and tons of female fans. There was a hybristophilia, smorgasbord going on with this dude.
Did he partake?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Like, he had all kind of girlfriends. And
Did he kill any of them? Probably not, huh?
We'll get into that. But like I said, I think he was planning to, but I don't know if he got around to it. But he was one of those dudes that was like had like a lot of teenage girlfriends too.
Yeah.
So you know what that means.
He
think
liked
like
him young.
I think like I said, I think deep down like he had an impotence issue.
Yeah.
Which like I said, I as soon as I read about the details of some of the crimes, I was like, dink, he couldn't get it up.
Yeah, maybe.
And like some of them were,
I have to hear it. I have to hear it, but yeah, sometimes that might happen.
Yeah.
So that might explain some aspects of his.
So it's almost like he's going, because a lot of times killers that are impotent, that struggle with impotence like that. One, they tend to get really frustrated, and will lash out. But they also have like this deep-seated. I think a lot of them have like a deep-seated hatred toward women because it's like, well, I want to fuck this woman, but I can't, but it's her fault. So it's I don't know. It's like a whole thing, but I think that's probably what this dude's shit was. You know what I mean? He can't say he's dead. So
we'll see.
He died in 1994.
I don't know anything about this case. I'm fresh to it. So.
Yeah, CB said he had a BDSM fetish. He did. He did indeed. According to many of his girlfriends and women and sex workers that he did not kill.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I read a lot of the FBI profiling fucking books on this. It's part of their sexual orientation. But it's not normal sex as you'd know it. Some of those guys can have normal sex, and it's satisfying only as normal sex, but they have a certain thing that they want.
Yeah.
That involves death.
Yeah.
Okay. And power. And
which,
fucking lust.
Not great. Not healthy,
so,
generally.
A lot of women aren't going to be into this, voluntarily going to get killed. Right.
Yeah, it's like...
All right, so...
No thanks.
Well, they had that one dude who volunteered to be eaten by the cannibal dude.
Yeah, but there's
tried some of his own.
A lot of weirdos in the world, you know what I mean?
But there's not enough women out there that want to sacrifice themselves in the act of sex. So... they got to get their fix another way. That's just a very gross generalization, but that's basically what's happening.
Yeah.
So this guy had a lot of female attention, and he could get girlfriends, but it wasn't getting what he actually craved.
Yeah.
It was just to kill him.
Because apparently he was super, super charming.
Yeah.
And super manipulative. Very Ted Bundy-like in that way. Because like I said, he was an okay-looking dude. Like I said, not really my type or anything, but...
his skin looks a little rough.
Well, like, you know, he was very slender. He looked very continental. He was kind of sophisticated. He was, you know, well, he kind of played that role, I guess, because he didn't grow up like that. But apparently, like, a lot of women just found him completely irresistible for some reason. Like I said, I never met the dude. I don't know, but like...
Yeah, but he couldn't do anything with him.
I'm suspecting that that's probably the case.
Right.
CB says, yeah, sometimes my dick doesn't work, but that's not my girlfriend or any other woman's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
happens to the best of us.
It's common.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that uncommon. It's not...
The weirdest thing...
It's usually nothing to worry about.
The weirdest thing, CB, you know, I watch some of the other shows that I watch on YouTube that involve people from the porn industry. And fucking dudes that are not even in the porn industry, that are Gen Z in their fucking early 20s, take pills. They'll take Viagra.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck do you need Viagra for? But that shit is psychologically addictive.
Well, yeah, it's like an insurance policy.
Yeah, this 21, 22-year-old dude was like, oh, well, you know, I gotta have my pills.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man,
well, now he's like psychologically dependent.
Now he's psychologically dependent on him. Because he was talking about going to the swinger club.
They call, you know what?
Pills.
I just read this a couple days ago, but they call Viagra swingers insurance.
Yeah. It's all good, people. I take all like fucking high performance drugs. I like drugs as long as they're drugs that do good shit for you. I like everything. But when you're an older dude, you got to know everything about testosterone and high performance fucking drugs, high performance sexual drugs, everything. Cialis, Viagra, everything. I like to fuck with it all. I won't fuck with Trimix. Some of the guys in the industry injecting that shit in their dick so they can do gay porn, and they're the straight guys doing gay porn with that shit injected in there. They say once you inject that in your dick, you will always want to inject that shit in your dick from then on.
Yeah, you might not want to get.
So I would never try that
on that
because you get really psychologically addicted to that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you seem to be doing all right with this thing. And honestly,
for 55, bro.
And honestly, you don't even take them sometimes. So and you do all right.
It's
so,
like I said, it's more of a psychological thing.
Yeah. So I don't
it's
really.
More psychological.
Because sometimes, like, there'll be like a whole, I know it's TMI, but we'll have like a whole big session or something. He's like, oh shit, I didn't even take a pill.
I forgot to take pills.
I forgot it for like 3 days or something like that. I'm like, oh, well.
Because it's psychology.
Yeah.
Psychology has a lot to do with it. And,
I don't think about it.
Yeah. And fucking, it doesn't matter. I forgot where I was going with that. The alcohol's just starting to hit me.
Yeah, it happens.
But, yeah. Fucking dick pills. Shit fucking eventually happens if you start approaching 60. Especially if you're not in good shape. I'm in good shape, so that helped a lot. But there's something about those fucking pills. It's like the difference between natural breasts and implants. Implants always look good. They're always stage ready. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking, they always look the same. And, you know, that's kind of the way those pills are. The fucking...
You can rely on them.
You can rely on them, and you know that your shit is fucking bigger than it's fucking big as fuck. It's like a girl with implants.
Yeah.
And there's something psychologically boosting about that, you know?
Yeah.
I'll look down, fucking see her hand on that shit, and it's fucking and that bitch is fucking huge, you know what I mean? And I'm going like, yeah, you know, getting fucking fired up and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's synergy happening between two people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole fucking thing. If I see her make out with another woman, my head fucking freaks out. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fuck the shit out of this.
I know you love that. You love that.
She was out on the dance floor making out with our friend Dawn and shit. And
on Saturday.
Going, God, and I wonder, you guys look so
We both
cute.
got lipstick all over our faces. But I think everyone was like so drunk at that point they probably didn't. Because I went in the bathroom, I'm like, man, that looks terrible.
Everybody knows us, so they're just like, they're at it again.
Oh, there they go again.
There they go.
And she said that too. She said later, she's like, "Oh my god, I was mortified. I had like lipstick all over my face."
She fucking texted me. She goes, Jen is so irresistible. I can't fucking.
She's so fun. I love her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even remember. We had some Duran Duran on and stuff like that. We were just out there dancing like at the prom.
at the club.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
She's a lot of fun.
She'll be around.
Yeah. We're just, she'll be out Saturday probably.
Yeah, she'll be out Saturday.
Let's see. Guys, CB says, guys like Jack are the reason we have vetting and fetish bars. Yeah. I mean, you gotta have any kind of club like that. You're gonna have to like fucking vet your shit because, yeah, you never know. John Gore says, finally saw Heretic.
Yeah.
Found the first half more compelling, eerie, provocative. Then it becomes a more conventional, gross out action kind of thing. Yeah, like it does take a more horror direction.
Yeah, it gets
like
a little
at
more
the
conventional.
Halfway point.
It's
but
still
like,
good though, man. The way
that was one of my favorite movies of
the
last
way
year.
it built up. You reminded me. I gotta buy that. I want that bitch on Blu-ray,
Yeah.
hard. Have a hard copy.
Hard copy of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having the Substance also because
I
want
would
to watch
buy
that.
yeah, Substance too. I'd buy both Heretic and Substance on fucking Steelbook. I'd fucking love to have.
Yeah, I wonder if they have
a deluxe version of those.
Yeah, that would be really good because
Yeah.
those are definitely ones I want to watch again. And I would also buy
Sinners.
And
Steelbook.
yeah, when that comes out, I want to buy that. I want to buy Late Night with the Devil too. I've already seen that twice.
Also, that one, yeah.
I saw it in the theater and then I watched it again on Shudder.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite movie of last year.
Yeah.
But it was my top three was Late Night with the Devil, The Substance, and Heretic were my top three.
Yeah.
Last year.
Great movies.
And I saw a lot of good horror movies last year. A lot.
Worthy of the Ross library. Well, I'm gonna have them bitches up in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CB said, I watched Terrifier 3. It was shit. But I watched Saw X on Netflix.
Terrifier 3 was just entertaining, though. We saw it in the theater.
It was, yeah, it was fun.
It was just fun to watch.
It was fun.
You're not talking about a highbrow movie.
You just want to see people get a chainsaw up their
Yeah.
butt crack. Sometimes. That's all a girl could want, really.
So let's talk about this jackhole. It's about time to talk about this guy.
This jackhole.
Yeah.
So this dude, Jack Unterweger. I know it's fun to say his last name. I'm just going to call him Jack. That's actually just his nickname. His real name is actually Johann. But he just called himself Jack, so that's what I'm going to call him too. Usually known as the Vienna Woods Killer or the Vienna Strangler, because a lot of his crimes, well, not a lot of his crimes, but some of his crimes took place in Vienna and Austria, where he was from. But he killed people in lots of countries. He was a jet-setting, globe-hopping serial killer. Maybe the first one. You don't really see that a lot. Sometimes you do see a serial killer that like killed people in one country and then, like England, for example, and then moved to the United States and killed more people here. But yeah, this dude just went all over the place and killed people. That was just kind of his thing. At least 4 countries. So like I said, Austria, where he's from, the U.S., West Germany, and the Czech Republic, which was then known as Czechoslovakia. And as I mentioned earlier, they suspect that he killed at least 12 people. He was ultimately convicted of 1 in the 70s and then 9 more later on in the 90s. But they think there was more than that. They just didn't have like enough evidence or whatever. And as I mentioned, after the first crime in the 70s, he went to prison for quite a while. And then after he got out, he immediately started killing people again. So rehabilitation, not so much. Not so much. So this motherfucker was born in Austria in a place called Judenberg. And his mom, whose name was Theresia, he would have you believe that she was a sex worker. I do not think this is the case. Austrian records show no, because prostitution was and is legal. So, but you have to register and get medical things. It's regulated, you know what I mean, as it should be. As it should be.
Yeah.
So, so you have to register and say, hey, I want to work as a sex worker, and they keep track of you, you know what I mean? Just safer. You know what's interesting? I was watching the Time Suck about this, and I don't know if this is still the case, but he's like during the time that all of this was going on, he said the sex work there is so safe that the murder rate, which is already very, very low, in Vienna at least, the murder rate is the same between sex workers and just random-ass people.
Yeah.
Which is not the case.
Well,
in the United States.
Well, it just means they're not being targeted, but as
yeah, exactly, because they're not easy prey. Because, like I said, it's legal. They're kept track of. You know, everybody knows who they are.
There's probably brothels involved, so you can't do it in there.
Yeah, like well, no, you can operate you can operate as a single.
Okay.
They actually consider
independent agent.
yeah, they actually consider them into like contract workers.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Well,
like
that's what it is.
you pay tax just like a self-employed person would. That's kind of how they handle it. Which,
It's
like I said, is
Yeah, the American attitude on it is just fucking ridiculous.
it's dumb as shit.
That
It's
is not-
clearly much
and-
safer doing it this way.
And that is not the traditional American way. The traditional American way was fucking a girl can make money any way she wanted to. It was her body.
Yeah.
They started that shit fucking actually in the 1900s. Like 1920s, 30s. That's when they really started to crack down on it.
Making it illegal just makes it 10 times more dangerous.
Just like drugs and alcohol.
At least.
Yeah. Drugs, alcohol, and
Yeah,
drugs.
because then there's like this whole like
then
underground economy springs up around
well,
it.
organized crime gets involved.
Yeah, exactly. So it's dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's dumb.
And it's just harder on the girls.
Yeah.
That's only people being punished.
Yeah. Like I said, so it was very unusual for sex workers to get murdered even in the 70s. You know what I mean? Like very unusual. And they were alarmed like when it started happening. You know what I mean? Because it didn't usually happen. Because they were just as safe as a regular person. Because like I said, they kept track of them. So even though he said in his book that he wrote later that his mom was a sex worker, pretty sure that's not the case. She was not registered as a sex worker. She had no arrests or anything like that, like pertaining to anything. There was just nothing like that. But she was a single mom. She was a petty criminal, however, but she wasn't a sex worker. Like, she just did little like forgery and shit like that, robbery. His dad, they're not entirely sure who the dad is. She said that it was a U.S. Army guy that was stationed in Trieste. She put the name Jack Backer, or Becker. I don't know how you pronounce an A with an umlaut on top. But that's what she put on the birth certificate, but like nobody knows who it is. Now, so that's why, because his dad's name was supposedly Jack, that's why he called himself that. Although they said when he was a kid, they actually always called him Hansi. That was his nickname. So as I said, his mom, not a sex worker probably, but she was a petty criminal. So she was kind of in jail, in and out of jail, like on little bullshit charges, fraud, theft, forgery, trespassing, that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Embezzlement. So yeah. Now, she even said later, because I think she read his book, and she said, yeah, he just said I was a hooker, like, to make his book sell better or something like that. And I was like, yeah, go mom. So, after he was born in 1950. And a year after he was born, she got put in jail for fraud. And so he was given to a foster mom, like, for a year. And then, like, the following year, 1952, he was actually put into his grandfather's custody. And his grandfather was named Ferdinand Weiser. And his grandfather also had a girlfriend whose name was Maria Springer. Now, he would actually live with his grandfather and his grandfather's girlfriend until he was 8 years old. So, you know, like 7 years. Again, in his book, he claims that his grandfather was also a criminal, and that he trained him to also be a criminal, like stealing other people's farm animals and stuff like that. So, this is also probably bullshit. Another thing that Jack said that his grandfather did, which was probably bullshit, was that, oh yeah, my granddad used to bring home women and make me watch them fuck. You know what I mean? And also he said that his grandfather and his grandfather's girlfriend were like real bad drunks and he used to beat him and stuff like that. Neighbors, people that knew them said this was not the case. And it's funny because even if you read like biographies and stuff of Jack Unterweger, like a lot of it will repeat the stuff that was in his book. Like, oh, he grew up with his granddad, like in this one room shack, and his granddad was a criminal and used to beat the crap out of him and all this other kind of stuff. And it was a drunk. But a deeper dive into it shows that that is probably not the case. They said his grandfather actually had a lot of health issues and didn't really go out very much. And according to neighbors and everybody that knew him said, yeah, the kid had a nice life. Like, he was fine. Nobody would beat up on him, and he was like actually really well cared for. So I think, like I said, later on, when he wrote this book and was trying to maybe excuse his actions and get people to feel sorry for him, I think that he exaggerated a tad. A lot. I think he exaggerated a lot. But yeah, so there was that.
Do you want me to go ahead and top that drink off for you?
Sure. Okay. So at this point, so in 1958, when Jack was 8 years old, his grandfather and the grandfather's girlfriend, Maria, like broke up. And at this point, he was too sick to take care of a kid on his own, the grandfather was. So he went to live with his great aunt, whose name was Juliana. He didn't live with her for that long. Now, I will note, okay, I don't know if this is the same relative or not, because here's the thing. Unterweger had a habit, I guess I would call it that, of saying that, like, pretty much all of his female relatives were sex workers, which I find very, very hard to believe. And I think, like I said, he was using that as a sort of excuse. It's like, you know, why I hate sex workers so much and why I'm such an evil person and blah-de-blah. But like I said, I don't think that's the case. So I don't know if this aunt that he lived with for a few months after this whole situation, after he moved out from his grandfather's house, he said that he said he had an aunt who was also a sex worker, because, you know, that's what he said about all of his female relatives, who had been murdered by her pimp. Again, this is widely believed to be a complete fabrication. I don't know if this was the same aunt that he actually lived with for a bit, or if this was another aunt, like I said. I think he was just like any woman that was in his life. They're all whores, you know what I mean? I think it was that kind of situation. So after this point, like, he was living with his great aunt for a little while, and then they put him in the foster care system again, and he went and lived with this other family. And he gets put into, like, this kind of evangelical reform school, I guess, like, for a couple of years. And then in 1965, he actually dropped out of school, so he never finished. And he started an apprenticeship to be like a hotel waiter, because I guess you needed an apprenticeship to do that. I mean, you know, I guess it's kind of a hard job, but you know what I mean. So he did the apprenticeship, and he was at this job, like, being a hotel waiter, and then he was there for like 6 months, and then he got fired. And they said why he got fired was because he was, like, I guess they said, it's like, look, we think he's dangerous. I'm not sure if they used that actual word, but they said he, like, harasses girls all the time, like, at school and, like, at the job, and, you know, he's just a creep and he can't be around, you know what I mean? And so he kind of just hopped from job to job, like, being a hotel waiter at different places, but he never lasted anywhere for very long. Like, he would always get fired. Like I said, usually for harassing girls or women, or for stealing. That's what he would usually get fired for. So his first conviction was in 1966, and this was for stealing, for theft. He stole a bunch of money from, 527 shilling. I'm not sure how much that is in today's American money. But he stole it from some guests, like, at the hotel that he was working at. But, you know, it wasn't a huge deal, so I guess he just got, like, a couple days in jail, and then they sent him to a juvie, like a juvenile detention center, for like a year, for rehab. So he was in there for like a year. And then after they let him out, like in late 1967, like, he went on and worked as a waiter at a bunch of other places, but again, he kept getting fired because he kept fucking stealing shit. Like, he couldn't stop himself, you know what I mean? Like, he fucking stole shit everywhere. So at this point, this is kind of funny. So when he turns 18 years old, his mom, who is long gone by this point, gets a letter and says, we're not giving your son any further help, any further social services, because, and this is a quote from the letter, educational measures are unlikely to be successful. Meaning, we can't teach him shit.
He is genetically fucked up.
He's incorrigible.
Yeah.
He's basically incorrigible. So it's like, we can't help him anymore. So at this point, he was just kind of set adrift. and started doing like odd jobs, kind of moving around Austria and just doing whatever he could do. Now, between the years of 1966 and 1974, he was convicted 16 times of various things. These were mostly burglary, that kind of shit. But as the 70s dawned, he also started getting into pimping. Like, he would pimp out his teenage girlfriends. Like, there was that.
Damn.
Yeah.
He's still in high school? No, he's out of high
Well,
school.
he dropped out.
Yeah, he's
dropped out.
High school age, but out
Yeah,
of juvie.
he's 18. He's 18.
18. Okay, so he would have about ready to graduate.
Yeah. But like I said, he dropped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would pimp out his
that
teenage
early.
girlfriends. Yeah, like he would talk them into it. Because like I said, he was very... Even at a young age, they said he was just very, very manipulative. Like, he could talk you into...
I wonder how many hookers he created. by
Lord
doing that.
knows.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I'd like to do a fucking study on find those girls and see what they did.
Yeah.
Or if they just snapped out of it.
Yeah, no telling.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, the girls in this case were younger than him.
Yeah.
And, you know, by all accounts, he was, you know, very charming and quite handsome.
Yeah.
So it's like he was probably able to talk him into all kind of shit. And then, like, when they got older, they're like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know what I mean? It's probably that. Because they were young.
Something I want to chime in on, because earlier I said it should be legalized here. I've said on earlier shows before that we've done. I've done an in-depth review. I got friends in that industry. Okay. I do not recommend prostitution for young women. Nah, it's not a good lifestyle. For an older, more mature woman that's already been married and had kids and divorced, it's a lot better for them because they know who they are. They've already had a normal life, but you're going to end up being like James Bond.
They don't have as much to lose.
They don't have as much to
when
lose.
You're older.
And they've already been through the ringer, as this one way to put it. You know, you've had kids. You got to fucking pay for your kids now. You're not really at peak marriage ability. You're 35, 40. Really, the ultimate prostitute. And I've been with prostitutes, you know, fucking back when I was in the army in Korea, okay? But the ultimate one would be one in her early 40s, okay? Who's already had kids, who looks great. Psychologically, she can handle that a lot better than
you
a
kind of have
teenage
your
girl.
shit together.
Yeah, she's got her shit together. She knows she's playing a role. She knows it's a job. It's not doing the same kind of psychological damage.
She doesn't
to her.
take it as seriously.
Yeah, it's more of a job to her. She can distance it and compartmentalize it, and fucking, she's an entertainer, you know. It's a lot easier on them, and they're not fucking sacrificing their future in terms of like being a wife or a mother or a professional, you know, and working in some office, because that time has passed for them, really. So don't, just because I said that earlier, don't think that I condone that shit for fucking young girls. Nah, I would never want, if I had a daughter, I would never want my daughter to be in that. That's a rough
Yeah, I
rough
wouldn't
life.
recommend it. Well, yeah, like I said,
Dangerous,
and
yeah.
I'm very sex positive. I'm very
Yeah.
sex worker positive. I think it should be legalized just across the
Yeah.
board, and regulated just like any other industry is.
Yeah.
But that said, like you said, I wouldn't recommend it
No.
for younger women just because it
Yeah.
kind of like you don't have your shit together yet. You know, it might
Right.
kind of fuck up your psychological
Yeah.
development. Like, you know what I mean?
The world's oldest profession is prostitution. The second oldest profession is soldiering, and I was a fucking soldier in the 101st Airborne Division Infantry. Okay, if you don't know me from other shows, we're both selling our bodies. She's selling sex to old men. I'm killing the old man's enemies. All right? We could both get killed doing this shit. I always kind of felt an affinity for them girls fucking back in Korea. They were just in another army.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's dangerous. It's a
Very
dangerous
dangerous.
job.
And they were like the commandos of the female world. Geisha type stuff, you know, geisha samurai, that kind of shit.
I'm sure it's safer in Korea than it is here.
Yeah,
but, you know,
much safer.
Much
and
safer.
And you had the Korean government and the U.S. Army involved overseeing the.
We're kind of
brothels.
overseeing it. That's what
It
I
was
mean.
militarized
So there was
prostitution.
some oversight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here, it's just
Right.
not really.
So, but even those girls kind of got fucked over, because what happened to them later on is they're in what slut marches, okay? Because protesting that they wanted a government paycheck because they were actually working for the government,
Yeah.
doing what they were doing, and they couldn't get married anymore.
I mean, rightfully so.
Because the Korean guys didn't want them. They were working in fucking
compensation
brothels
for that shit.
So I don't know how that ever got resolved. It probably resolved. They probably cut him a check. But yeah, you can end up being a physical casualty doing that as a woman, and you can end up being a psychological or a social casualty.
That too.
But it's the same in soldiering.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Real similar. And me and Jenna, we were sex workers with each other, doing live shit on camera. But I would not and I've been in both worlds, military world and everything, fuck it up, but I would not recommend selling your body if you're a young woman. That's a last resort.
Yeah. I mean, some people don't have a choice, but
last resort. Yeah, last resort.
It's safe. I think it's safer now because you have the internet and like you can vet people easier.
Yeah,
like you don't just have to go out on the street corner, but it's still very dangerous.
Yeah, and the biggest risk though is to your future and your psychology.
Yeah. How you see yourself.
I
mean, I can't imagine doing that when I was younger. No way.
An older woman who's already been married and had a family and everything can see herself more accurately than a fucking 18-year-old girl who's fucking never had any of that shit. You know?
Yeah. I mean, 18-year-olds don't know anything.
They don't fucking know anything.
I mean, no disrespect, but they really don't. I mean, I didn't know anything when I was 18 either.
No.
Nobody does. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, you know? So, yeah. So, like I said, I'm very positive about it and think that it should be legalized, but by the same token, I wouldn't recommend it.
No. And I definitely wouldn't recommend it for young, dumb women.
And look, I'm 52 and I still wouldn't do it.
No.
Even if I wasn't married.
Right. Very risky.
Like, yeah, I still wouldn't risk it. It's just too much shit can go sideways, you know what I mean? It's like, it's too much trouble.
Yeah.
I wouldn't risk it. Florence says, "Oh my god, I never noticed the Tom and Jenny skeleton thing in the background. That's so cute." Yeah, our friend Sophie gave us that.
That's right.
It says established 2023 because that's what she gave that to us for our wedding present.
Yeah.
Because we've been together since 2011, but we actually didn't get married until 2022.
So started as a fan watching the show.
She did, yeah.
And then, based on what I was saying, she realized that she was friends with one of my best friends in Michigan's sister.
Yeah.
So then she started talking. She says, "Oh yeah, I know her. I grew up. We're friends." And I was like, "Yeah." So she would come down. She's been on several shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes down to visit sometimes.
Yeah, she'll probably be back down again. I hope she brings her new boyfriend.
He seems like a nice person.
He's a nice guy, yeah.
Like, just from what I've seen of him.
Yeah,
online.
he's fucking getting all of his credentials for fucking pipe fitting and shit like that. He's a fucking pipe dude. And he gotta be laying pipe. Lay some pipe, bro.
That sounded dirty.
Laying pipe on that shit. But maybe we'll have him on the show.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like I said, she's been down here, what, twice? 2 or 3 times?
I think 3 times.
I think maybe 3 times.
Twice. Yeah, 2 or 3 times. And she's
remember.
been on the show a couple times. Yeah. 2 or 3 times.
Because I think she came down once when we were at our old house.
Yeah. Last time she came down, I was on tread. I was fucking crazy as shit. She said, I'm scared of you. I got to just get into fights in the clubs and shit.
Yeah.
But I'm off tread. I'll never take that shit again.
Yeah. Let's not repeat that.
No. No. If you take stuff, dude, do not take Trembolone.
Yeah.
No. Turn you into the goblin.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, yeah. So, where did we get sidetracked? Oh, pimping. So this dude is pimping out his teenage girlfriends.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Also has some charges for assault and also sexual assault. So you can tell that this dude it's not going anywhere good, you know, already. He's only 18 and already he's racking up 16 fucking convictions. Like I said, most of them are burglaries, but pimping, sexual assault, not great. Not great. So yeah. So basically, so he gets all these different fucking... So he's kind of in and out of prison. You know what I mean? Like, between, like, 1968 and 1969, he got, like, 10 months for theft. Then he got, like, 4 months for burglary. Then he got 7 months. He only got 7 months. I'm not sure entirely what the exact circumstances of this were. But he only got 7 months for kidnapping a minor. And I don't know if he pimped her out, but I'm pretty sure that was the intention. I don't know if it was just a case of she was a lot younger than him and she's like, "I love you, I'm going with you." Like, it might have been that kind of situation, which is maybe why he didn't get that much for it. But yeah. But then while he was in prison for that, he sent a threatening letter to another woman, like, while he was in prison. So they gave him another, like, 3 months. So like I said, this is already a fucking miscreant, right? Now, this is pretty horrifying. So in May of 1971, this is in Salzburg in Austria, which isn't that where Mozart is from? I can't remember now. I thought he was from
CB
Salzburg.
said, plus, Tom, older women can tell which men are the ones to be concerned about. Yeah.
Yeah. We're a lot more...
When I was in Korea, you know, the brothels were all legal back in the early 90s. And really, looking back at some of the providers that I hooked up with, the older ones that were probably like 35, 40 plus were the better ones. Because they were just nicer.
Yeah.
And they had more experience and... I don't want to say it's a weird way, but more kind of motherly or protective towards you. You know what I mean? The younger ones, you could tell they were kind of like under financial duress. That they were kind of there because they had to be. Because
they had to be, yeah.
The older ones were, you could tell that they liked it more.
Right.
They
were having a better time.
Yeah, they were having a good time. They were getting paid by fucking good-looking young guys.
Right.
In the army.
And they're just like, all right.
Yeah, cool. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, come on. Look at this. Look, lay down. It's just, you know, they're doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing that. But, no, well, shit, I don't want to get on that fucking subject, but I'm just saying, they're very much kind of like fucking 007 secret agents, you know what I mean? Fucking if they're lone operators, as they're entertainers. I respect their game when they're good, but they got a lot of bad ones, you know what I mean? And ones that shouldn't be there because they didn't choose to be there, you know? And most of the young ones didn't choose to be there. They just ended up there because that was their only...
Because that was like their only option.
It was like the end of the road.
Yeah.
Drugs had a lot to do with it.
Well, yeah.
And if drugs have anything to do with it, you'll never be good at that.
Yeah.
I've heard that from even old school fucking pimps from the hood. Says, if this is about drug addiction, you ain't going to be a good hoe. Because all your money's going to go down that way and you're not going to be... Because they're spending their money on that.
Yeah.
They're not trying to move up.
Right.
You know. The best is older woman who she's trying to support her kids. That's the best.
Yeah. And not trying to support a drug habit.
Right, yeah. Not trying to support a drug habit. Right, yeah.
James Knapp says, the case started yet? Yeah, we're just kind of going off on various things. Because like I said, we kind of went off on a whole pimping thing because this dude was caught for pimping out some of his girlfriends. And James Knapp also says, yes, Mozart is Austrian. Oh, I know he's Austrian. I just wasn't sure, because this dude's Austrian too, but wasn't sure if he was specifically from Salzburg. I thought he was, but I might be remembering that wrong. I've read like a bunch of books about Mozart because I find him fascinating, but it's been a long time. So it's like, but I'm pretty sure that's where I thought he was from. So this is horrifying. So I think that I don't know if he had done shit like this before this. It's kind of probably, but so this happened in May of 1971 in Salzburg, like I said. So Jack, he picks up a sex worker who is only ever called Monica H. And she gets in the car, and then he drives to, like, kind of outside the city, like, a little bit. And then, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what the provocation was, or if there even was one, he hit her in the back of the head with, like, a metal bar, like a rod, like an iron rod or something. Stripped off all her clothes, tied her up with her own underwear, and then how can I say this without getting demonetized? He basically sodomized her with the metal bar, and while he was jerking off. That's what he did. He didn't kill her though, which small mercy, I guess. But this was reading about this was the first thing that clued me in that I think this dude's deep-seated thing was impotence. I think he was impotent because he didn't rape her with his penis. He raped her with a metal bar that he had also bashed her in the head with. Like, he took this metal bar and, like, anally raped her with it. And then he jerked off on her. You know what I mean? So that, to me, says impotence. Like, he's afraid that he's not going to be able to get it up and actually have sex with a woman. That's kind of what that...
Putting all that pressure on himself.
That's what, yeah. Now, this girl, thankfully, did not die. But I guess he kicked her out of the car or whatever, and she ran to, like, somebody nearby for help.
What's up, Papa? How you doing, bro?
Hey, Papa 77, what's up?
Papa's one of our big contributors. He's a high roller.
Hi,
And his wife.
Yeah.
Or his girlfriend. Can't keep him straight. That's a poly triad going on.
It's a whole poly family. Yeah.
That's all that fucking sexy shit.
Yeah, CB said an older sex worker refused to go with the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah.
But the younger one went off with him a few minutes later and was murdered.
Well,
yeah.
a wiser woman can kind of get the vibe. They're like, this ain't normal.
It's like, that dude's a creep.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not blaming anybody, because sometimes you can't tell. Like, because older women fall for the shit too, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're really good at it. But so, yeah. So this dude, he gets arrested for this horrible, horrible rape. And while he's in jail, he takes a bunch of pills, or he says he takes a bunch of pills, and he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. So, like, I don't know if he really did overdose or if he just said he did. But because of that, they actually transferred him to a psych ward. And then he was later released for whatever reason. Even after doing that shit. He didn't kill her, but holy shit. Can you imagine having that happen to you? I just can't imagine that. That's horrifying. So I don't know. It's weird because there's different... And I'm not sure if it's like a translation issue, because I think like a lot of the original sources of this are obviously in German, which I don't speak. But most of the sources say that this happened to a girl named Monica. That's just what they call her, Monica with a K, in 1971. But some of the sources say that this actually happened in 1974 and that the girl's name was Daphne. I don't know if this was two separate cases or if they're just like conflating them or whatever, because he did have an MO and he did similar shit to other women. So it could be that he did it twice. You know what I mean? I'm not really entirely sure. So yeah, so after he threatened to kill himself, they sent him to the psych ward, and then eventually they let him out. I don't know why. So in August of 1971, he actually went to West Germany. But I guess he did something there. I'm not entirely sure what, because he got arrested and they kept him there for a few months, and then they deported him back to Austria. And then, like, he stole some cars or something, so then they put him in jail again, like, for 15 months, like, for stealing a bunch of cars. So this dude could just not stay out of fucking prison. You know what I mean? So I have a note here, but I think I already brought this up, that, as I mentioned earlier, in Austria, prostitution was and is legal and is regulated by the government. They have to actually go to get medical exams, I think, every 6 weeks. But yeah, you just have to register, and it's, you know, regulated. And they're self-employed, and they're treated like any other self-employed worker, which actually is kind of nice. Like I said, I think it's a lot safer. Obviously not in this case, but this is unusual. This was very unusual. Even for this time period, was very unusual. Like, usually sex workers were just as safe as anybody else. Because of this. Now this, right here, April 1973, this is considered his first murder. So this was a 23-year-old woman. She was actually Yugoslavian, and her name was Marika Horvath. And they found her body in a lake near Salzburg. She had been tied up with her own pantyhose. This was a signature that he would do. He would always tie the women up, bind them with their own undergarments.
You talking about hands behind the back?
Yeah, like tied up, and I think her ankles were also bound.
Okay. So hands and feet behind the back.
I think so, yeah. She also had gagged. She was also gagged, too. And he'd also used a very distinctive-looking necktie, too. Now, because of the necktie, Unterweger was actually arrested only a couple weeks later, because they found out that tie, which was kind of unique, that he had bought it, like in a shop there where he was living. But because there was no other evidence other than the necktie, they kind of had to let him go. And also his girlfriend at the time, who was also a much younger teenager, as usual, gave him an alibi, which they think was probably a lie. So they didn't have enough evidence to hold him, so they had to drop the charges, obviously. Now, okay, so in October of 1973, not long after he was released after being detained for that, he picked up a nurse named Maria who was hitchhiking. And then he drove her somewhere where they weren't supposed to go. He's like, oh, I need to do... Because, man, don't ever do that. One, don't ever get in a car with a dude you don't know. And two, if you get in there and he says, oh, we're going here. Oh, but I first have to make a stop at the... Yeah, just jump out. Just jump out. But that's... Because it's not going anywhere good. So he says, yeah, I have to run an errand this other place. And then he's driving along the road, and then he suddenly, like, stops the car real quick and just starts punching her. And, like, also trying to rape her, too. Now, she got away from him and ran into the woods screaming. Like, good for her.
Now, where'd he get her again?
She was hitchhiking.
Okay.
she wasn't a sex worker. She was a nurse. She was just
He
hitchhiking.
assumed that she was.
Like I said, in the 70s, a lot of people hitchhiked.
Yeah.
Not wise. I mean, you know, in Austria, it was probably much safer than it was here.
Yeah.
But still, it's not
were
safe anywhere.
A lot of hitchhikers were notorious for giving blowjobs to get to where they were going, though, too. That's why truckers would pick them up in the United States. I don't know if it was that same way in Europe, but...
Yeah, maybe, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But he
So
chased...
he might have thought she was a sex worker,
maybe.
basically.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So he chased her, and they fought. And then he's like, okay, well... I'll drive you back to your parents' house, which is where I guess he was taking her. And she agreed, I guess, which I don't know why you would. But I'd be like, fuck no, get the hell away from me.
She thought he came to his senses.
I guess. No, they never do. So just don't. Like I said, if they do that,
Yeah.
like right out the gate like that, just
That is his senses.
Yeah.
That is
it's
his
not
sense.
getting better.
Yeah.
Just get the fuck out of there. Just
Yeah.
get the fuck out of there. And don't look back.
No.
Just scream your fucking hat off. Get out of there. So, so yeah. And he basically even talked her into not pressing charges against him, like, on the drive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, she actually did... She had to go to the hospital later because he kind of beat up on her and punched her and stuff like that. And she did tell the cops. So good for her. You know, so... Later on, after when they caught him, you know, they picked him up. He said, yeah, I did kind of beat her up a little bit, but it's like we were going to have consensual sex, and that's why her clothes were off. And I didn't do all those injuries that she got, though. Like, we were in a car crash. That's why. And I think she had kind of fucked him up a little bit, too, because I think they fought some, because he had some injuries also. But he said it was from a car crash. So, you know. I don't know. I guess they bought it. He didn't really get convicted of that. However, he did get convicted of theft again in March of 1974. And then he gets into a relationship with this girl named Elizabeth. And he beat the shit out of her and sexually assaulted her. And also, she had a kid, like a baby. And she said that if you say anything about it, I'm going to kidnap your kid and cut your baby's face up with a razor. So that's nice. Mm-hmm. He did not kill her, but she got the fuck away from him after a couple weeks. So yeah, so like I said, we're seeing a pattern here.
So he kept her a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I guess. And then...
What did she say about the sex with him? Did she say anything?
No,
Could he get it up? I wonder.
Yeah, I'm not... See, that's what I was like. None of the women that were his girlfriends or anything like that, none of them ever said anything about that. Not that I saw, but like I said, I didn't do, like, I didn't have time to do, like, a huge exhaustive thing and read everything. And like I said, a lot of the primary sources are in German. So... I don't know. I just suspected because he had a thing for raping women with, like, iron bars and tree branches and shit like that. I suspect that... I don't think that he was impotent all the time.
Couldn't have been all the time.
I think that...
Yeah.
I think that it was a case of if he couldn't get it up immediately, like, he would get really frustrated or whatever and he would get mad.
Either that or he'd get fired up sexually and he would want to kill her. But he couldn't keep the hard on when he was fucking in that mode. So
right.
He would grab a fucking stick or something, an iron bar. Because you would think that the women that had normal relations with him would have reported, like, yeah, he was impotent. You think they would have said
Yeah,
that?
you'd think. Just
so
like...
he was probably normal in a normal relationship. But maybe when he was getting into kill mode, he was impotent.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe it was like too much pressure.
Too much pressure. Performance anxiety.
Too much pressure. which is crazy. That's like a crazy way to think about it.
Oh, that's not uncommon.
But yeah.
That's
but
not
I say
uncommon.
yeah.
Zodiac was probably like that.
Mm.
He'd go out and kill a couple, and he really couldn't have sex with anybody, so he'd just stab them with a knife or shoot them. You know, penetration in some way.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty common with certain types of serial killers. It seems like.
So it's a weird way. It's a weird way of having a drive, a sexual impulse, that's been merged with violence to kill, but they can't actually go through the physical act.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a weird thing.
So they have to use like a surrogate.
Yeah.
Dick.
I kind of understand it when I was on trend and be fighting and beating some motherfucker in the middle of a fight. You kind of get sexual arousal out of it.
Yeah.
Now, could I actually have sex at that time? Maybe not. Yeah, so maybe it's something like that. And fucking trend is some weird shit. So these dudes aren't normal.
Yeah, we floated the idea that maybe these dudes naturally like produce something that's like Tren.
Yeah. You see, Tren is...
Because a lot of the stuff that you experienced on Tren, I was like, that sounds like serial killer shit.
Yeah.
Like the way they think.
Tren is from a group of steroids based on testosterone called 19-nortestosterone. One of the esters is Tren. The other two is NPP and fucking decadurabolin. Durabolin and decadurabolin, or also known as NPP or Deca. Those, no problem. Tren, man, you become fucking crazy, all right? Yeah. And it takes time. But it made me think, maybe these dudes produce testosterone, but it's a mutant version of it.
Yeah.
And it's something kind of like 19-nortestosterone Tren.
Yeah, like chemically.
Chemically, you look at that molecule and you go, that looks like Tren. Well, that would fucking...
Because that would explain...
make you fucking be... Because what happens is sexual desire and fucking hunger and food, sex, food, and fucking violence merge into the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're fighting a dude, you kind of want to fuck him, but you also want to eat him.
Yeah.
You know, and you're feeling hatred and arousal at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's very animalistic.
Seriously, don't take it.
So, and maybe they're under the influence of something like a mutant version of
that they
testosterone that they're producing
naturally.
Yeah,
like I said, it would explain a lot.
Yeah,
that and like all the lead poisoning.
Lead poisoning might have something to do. The molecules are similar between Tren and testosterone.
Yeah. So yeah, July 1974. He actually beat up. I don't believe he sexually assaulted these women, but I think he did beat them up. Like he knocked one of them's tooth out. And then around that same time, he met this woman named Annalise and moved to Switzerland with her. Like, I guess she was his girlfriend, sort of, for a little while. Worked as a waiter again. He also worked as a DJ for a little while, which I thought was random. Now, while they were there in Switzerland, they met a woman named Barbara Schultz, who was West German. And she also, even though he ostensibly already had a girlfriend, Barbara also became his other girlfriend. So I guess there's a throuple thing going on. But she got deported back to Germany. I don't know why. And then Unterweger and Annalise like followed her like a couple months later, like, and went to Germany. Now, Barbara and Annalise were both minors, I should add. And so he's living with these two underage girls. He's about 24-ish at this stage. He's living with these two underage teenage girls. And he starts pimping them out. I mean, he did that before. Like, when he was about 18, he was, like, pimping out, like, one of his teenage girlfriends. But now he's, you know, significantly older. And he has two teenage girlfriends who apparently put up with his ass for some reason, because I guess they don't know any better. And he's like, hey, you know what would be really cool to, you know, kind of keep our lifestyle going, is you guys should just go out and suck dick for money. Or, you know, go fuck for money. And then bring the money home, and we'll keep the household running. So, yeah. And he talked him into it. He talked him into it. This is fucking crazy. And that's not the only thing that he talked them into, because apparently, in about mid-December, this is 1974 now, Jack and Barbara, they decided they were going to rob Barbara's parents' house. You missed the part where he's 24 and he has 2 teenage girlfriends that he decided to pimp out.
Yeah.
That were living with him.
Okay.
And he decided...
He's probably having a threesome with them.
And he's pimping them out. Well, I'm sure he was, but But he's pimping them out.
How old
also.
are they, the girls?
I'm not sure. They were minors.
Underage.
They were underage.
Here in the U.S., you get fucking locked up bigger than a fish.
You will get locked up. Well, he didn't get caught.
Yeah.
For that. That's why. They didn't find out about it until later. So him and Barbara go to rob Barbara's parents' house. Now, evidently, while they were doing this or after they were doing this, they got caught by a friend of Barbara's, whose name was Margret Schäfer. Now, she was 18. And they basically said, hey, man, don't tell anybody. Just come in the car with us. Everything will be fine. Which, spoiler alert, it wasn't fine. So Margaret gets in the car with them. I mean, she knew Barbara. She was friends with her. So she, I guess, didn't think anything about it. Now, so they drive to this parking lot somewhere. And then Jack basically ties up Margaret, took her wallet, and then says, I'll let you go. Like, we'll drive outside of town and I'll let you out, like, up there. And then he drives to this, like, forest. And then he leaves Barbara in the car, right? And he takes Margaret into the woods. And, like, Barbara's just sitting in the car, like, okay. Like, she's just fucking this is her friend. Some fucking friend that was, I guess. Fucking, yeah. So he takes Margaret into the woods, beat her with an iron bar, like he did to the first woman, tied her up with her pantyhose, and then did the same thing. He took that iron bar and raped her with it. And then he strangled her with his bare hands. He strangled her to death. And then he covered her up with, like, leaves and stuff. And he took her bra off and, like, tied it around her neck, like, after she died. I guess to make it look like... I don't know. He wanted to make it look like it was more like a rape murder, which it was. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if he jerked off on her, because he did that the first time. Like, after. Because, like I said, I don't think he could get it up. And the bra thing, and the underwear thing, this is one of the things that will be his, I don't know if I want to say downfall, but one of the things that kind of cemented his status as a serial killer, because he had a very, very distinctive way of, like, tying knots. And he would use it, like, he would tie these weird knots, like, with the bra straps, and, like, and he would always use, like, their pantyhose or their underwear or something, like, some undergarment that they had on them, like, to tie them up with or to strangle them with. So he just, like, left her there. And then he comes back to the car, and Barbara's like, where's my friend? Like, where's Margaret? And he basically just told her, well, we don't have to worry about her ratting us out anymore.
Damn.
And she was, like, okay with it, I guess. Or she was too scared of him to say anything, or I don't know.
Probably too scared.
I'm like, can you imagine? She's like, well, like I said, she's like a teenager, and he's like in his 20s.
He's like, okay, well, I guess that's done. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just, like, left her out there.
Then she's terrified of this dude.
Yeah. She's like, well, shit, I better not say anything.
Yeah.
Like, because he'll just, like, fucking strangle me and put me out there, too. It's fucked up.
We got a pretty good crowd out there. 33 for right now, which is good for this channel.
That's good.
Yeah.
Like, all at once,
Yeah.
So, then, these 3 miscreants, Jack and Barbara and Annalise, they robbed a jewelry store, so there was that, and then they went back to Switzerland. And then they spent all that money, and then Jack decided he was going to call up Annalise's parents, because she was still a minor, remember, and demand ransom, like, to bring her back. So they set everything up. Like, they were going to do, they were going to go to Basel in Switzerland, and, they're going to do a handover and shit like that. But obviously, Annalise's parents called the cops instead. So the cops were there, like, at the meetup, and they arrested him for kidnapping. So they put him in jail in Zurich for a couple months and then extradited him back to Austria. So in July of 1975, he was convicted of 4 counts of rape and assault committed between 1971 and 1974, and he got 3 years for that. And then Austria calls Germany up and said, what do you want to do about the Margret Schäfer murder? Because that happened in Germany. And Germany was like, you guys can handle that. Because I didn't know this, but Austria, if a crime is committed by an Austrian citizen, they can try you for it even if you did it in another country.
Huh.
Which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's weird. They don't have the same jurisdictional laws.
Yeah, they don't. So it's like, so even if, so you could go to like fucking Timbuktu, but if you're, and do some shit, but if you come back to Austria and they find out about it, they will absolutely try you in Austria for that. Which I thought, in a way, is kind of good.
In some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. Because
it's like less red tape. But
well, the way I look at it, though, is that if you're in somebody else's country, you should apply to those laws. Okay, not the laws that you came from.
Yeah, true.
All right, so because that's not their, it's a different country, it's not their jurisdiction. Yeah. So no, I don't like that.
Yeah, but that's what they do.
Now, if it's something capital, like a capital offense, like murder, shit like that, you know what I mean? Fucking maybe some kind of weird rape or something. I can kind of understand how you're going to track down one of your own citizens and bring him to justice. I understand that because they committed a crime against the foreigner. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, well, that's what happened here.
But if he's adhering to the laws of the country that he's in, no, your home country shouldn't give a shit.
This wasn't really like, I mean, he committed the crime in Germany, and he's from Austria.
Think of it this way: imagine you were a Saudi Arabian fucking citizen, and you come to the United States and start drinking some vodka. Saudi Arabia finds out about it, they're gonna send you to prison.
Yeah,
it's legal where you're at.
Yeah.
Jurisdiction matters. You should respect the jurisdiction.
I can see that.
So, you know.
But I can see why they do it this way, too.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not like he went to, like I said, fucking Pakistan and committed a murder.
Yeah.
It was just Germany, which is like right there.
It's probably only capital offenses is what they're talking about.
I would imagine that's what it is.
Shit.
But like I said, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Because they did, I mean, Austria did contact, like, because they said, hey, are you guys going to try him, or can we try him? Which, like, they don't have to try him there. They just have that option, because they did reach out to the German authorities and say, do you want to try him there for that?
Yeah.
Because it happened in Germany, and they said, no, you guys can handle it. So that's what they did. So he went on trial in June of 1976, and he got life in prison for the murder of Margret Schäfer. Now, his little teenage girlfriend, Barbara, was also tried as an accomplice, because obviously she knew about it. She got 8 years. She was only a minor. You know what I mean? Now, they also were looking into him for the death that I talked about earlier, Marika Horvath. But they said, well, you know, he's already in prison for life, so we're not going to worry too much about that. So now you might think that's the end of the story. He went to prison. Life in prison. The end, right? Nope, unfortunately. We got a lot to go still. Now, previously, allegedly, Jack was illiterate, which I don't know if I entirely believe. But the story goes that he was previously illiterate, and when he was put in prison, he taught himself to read and write. And like I said, I'm not sure I entirely believe that, because he was in his 20s, like when he went to prison. So
he could probably read and write. He was in school. He got kicked out of school.
He dropped out, yeah.
Dropped out. Yeah, but you can read by then, though.
Yeah. I mean, some people don't learn, and they, like, know a lot of ways around it. Like, I've heard of that. But I don't know. I don't know if I think it was another thing to be like, oh, like an inspirational kind of story. It's like, I didn't even know how to read, and then I went to prison and taught myself to read and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't buy it. But that was kind of part of the story, or the myth-making. So they said, like, once he taught himself to read and write, allegedly, in prison, he decided that's how he was going to redeem himself. He was going to start writing about everything. So he just started writing like a motherfucker. Like, he wrote so much stuff when he was in prison. Like, he wrote poems and plays and short stories. He wrote a couple of books. He wrote an autobiography, which was called Purgatory. or The Journey to Prison. And they actually made a movie of that, of the same name, in 1988. And the thing about it, though, is that everybody was kind of excited about it. But as time went on, later people have pointed out that he may have plagiarized a bunch of that stuff. Well, because they know for sure that some of the poems that he published, that he supposedly wrote, were like from Hermann Hesse, the guy that wrote Siddhartha.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And Steppenwolf and a bunch of other things. We read Siddhartha in school.
Yeah.
But he just like changed them up a little bit. But I don't think anybody really realized until like later on, and they were like, wait a minute, like did he plagiarize everything? But yeah. Well, his book though, and like he wrote a bunch of children's stories too, which is fucking bizarre. And he probably plagiarized that shit too. Because he had actually been corresponding with this journalist, and a lot of the children's stories were hers. So like he took them and just like took credit for them, you know what I mean? So I think that he probably plagiarized most of the stuff. But the thing about it is that his autobiography and his plays and stuff were supposedly autobiographical, and they were kind of about his life and crimes, because he was trying to portray himself as a criminal, because he talked about all the burglaries and the assaults and everything like that. But when it came to like the sexual assaults and the murders, like he was a little bit more circumspect about that, let's say. Like he kind of glossed that over some. And the particular murder that of Maria Schäfer, like Margret Schäfer rather, he basically had an excuse for that where it's like, well, my mom was a sex worker and I hate sex workers, and so I was just so mad at her that I blacked out and I don't remember, which is the classic fucking killer defense. I blacked out, I don't remember anything that happened. I'm like, sure you don't. So, you know what I mean?
Running from responsibility.
Yeah. So that was kind of how he framed it, that it's like, well, I couldn't help it. Like, I blacked out on this. So he admitted, like I said, to being a criminal in other aspects. Like, he admitted to all the other shit, but when it came to, like, the murders and, like, the super violent, like, rapey stuff, like, he just glossed that over, and he always had, like, some kind of excuse. But the thing about it was that this book that he wrote, Purgatory, was basically, like, so amazing that it became a bestseller pretty much. And like I said, they turned it into a movie and everything, and like everybody in the literary community was really moved by it and about how open and honest he was about what a shit person he was. He's like, wow, that's like so insightful that you would see all that in yourself and blah, blah, blah. So he kind of got a little bit famous because of this book that he wrote. And again, in this book, he blamed most of his evilness on his traumatic childhood. Like I said, my mom was a sex worker and she abandoned me, and my grandfather was an abusive drunk, and he made me watch him have sex with hookers in front of him, and my aunt was killed by her pimp, and all this other kind of stuff. Which, like I said, probably 99.99% of that is just complete bullshit. It is not true. But he was trying to justify. He was trying to make people feel bad for him, and he was trying to, just get people to be like, I'm an okay guy, really, like, and look how honest I'm being about what a criminal I am, and I've seen the error of my ways, and blah, blah, blah. So, because of this book, and because of the press that it got, and how honest and forthright it seemed, a lot of people, not just in the literary community, but politicians and stuff like that, started kind of agitating for him to be pardoned. Because they said, look, it's nobody that still feels that way can write a book that, soul revealing, I guess, is what their thinking was. They're like, he's seen the error of his ways, he's changed as a person. Like, he'd been in prison for a while at this point. So they thought that here's a case where he's really been rehabilitated, which is kind of what they, because there's always the struggle between which prisoners can you rehabilitate and which ones of them can you just like, we can't do anything with this dude. Can we just like hit him with a brick or whatever? But they really thought at this time, and I kind of thought it's like they did seem to have like a more liberal attitude toward rehabilitation of criminals, and this didn't occur to me until I read an excerpt from a guy who was Austrian, and he's bilingual. He speaks English and German, and he had written a book about this dude that was like very, very in depth. And he said, the way the Austrian system was, it's like it might seem like, oh my God, they're just like letting criminals back on the street or anything like that. But he's like, you have to understand that, when the Nazis were in, they went hard, like persecuting what they called degenerate artists and stuff. So it's almost like they overcorrected and like went too far in the other direction, where it's like, anybody that's like an artist or a writer or anything like that, like we can't be too hard on them because that's what the Nazis did. You know what I mean? So it's almost like they went too far in the other direction. So that was one thing that he pointed out, and I thought that was kind of an interesting observation from somebody that is from Austria, so he kind of knew what he was talking about.
Rehabilitation doesn't fly in the United States, in America at all. That concept really isn't there, because rehabilitating someone implies that there was habilitation before. There wasn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, no.
This dude...
Punishment, it's containment. They're putting you in a warehouse.
I mean, basically,
they're taking life off of you.
They're just putting you away where you can't hurt other people.
Yeah, that's all they're doing.
I mean, basically.
You're in the Phantom Zone, like at a fucking star, Superman.
And I mean,
Superman
hopefully they'll just like keep you busy and keep you quiet over there.
Right, yeah.
And so you'll leave everyone else alone.
You can't rehabilitate someone who is fucked up to begin with.
And this dude, like I said, I think this dude might have been a case of... Because even though he, cried about how horrible his childhood was, I don't think any of that was true. I think he had a completely average and normal childhood for the era and the time and the place. So I kind of think he was just trying to get sympathy. I think this dude might have been a case, as a lot of serial killers are. I do think some are made, but I think that's kind of rare. I think you already have to have some kind of
There's a genetic
something like to even go that way in the first place, because most normal people's minds do not work the way that serial killers' minds work. So do I think that some people are born like that if they grow up in like a loving normal family? Like, will they turn out okay? Sure.
Yeah, no.
I think that does happen. Like, there's no way to do that experiment, but I think that probably does happen.
It's a perfect storm of a bunch of different things.
It is, yeah.
Some psychopaths are high functioning. I have them in my family. It runs in my family. Fucking they are totally law abiding, and they're always trying to get you to follow these laws. Fucking, and they're control freaks. That's the first thing about psychopathy, is that they're fucking control freaks.
Well, this dude was definitely that.
If they're high functioning psychopaths, they care about friends and family. They don't fucking go after animals or kids. They tend not to kill anybody. It's the lower functioning ones that are like that. There was somebody who tried to fucking reterm it as the dark gentleman. Okay, that you're a psychopath, but you can raise children. You can get married. You can function in the society. But when push comes to shove, you'll knock a motherfucker off. And you'll have certain traits. Kind of like a cold disposition towards enemies. Which, maybe that's all fucking just point of view. I mean, psychology is a gray area. It's not really a science. I think it's more of a philosophy.
Well, just because everyone is so different.
Everyone's
you know what I mean?
very different, right. So they're trying to turn a science into something that's more like an art form. People are just a certain way. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to be in.
There's statistical proclivities, sure. Yeah. Like, you can study that. That's scientific. Yeah. But like I said, as an individual, each individual has their own mix of shit going on. Yeah. So you have to approach everything on an individual basis, honestly. Yeah, there are statistical probabilities involved, but...
Papa's saying something to us. What's up, Papa?
Thank you very much. Papa77 sent us a super chat.
A $10 super chat.
This is just for doing my favorite subject, which is true crime. This week are serial killers. And this guy is a real piece of work. He cons so many people to be able to kill again. I'm sure he could always read them right. Yeah, me too. Although CB points out, it's not unusual being illiterate. I didn't learn to read until I was 22. Is that true? I know. Well, no. I know it happens.
You could probably read a little bit.
I know it happens. Yeah. Well, I know it happens a lot. Like, because I've known some people that were dyslexic, and they were ashamed of it, so they didn't learn to read. But they found all of these ways of like working around it, so nobody knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're really, really good at that. So it's not impossible.
Yeah. Tommy Key, one of my dad's best friends, who fucking ran a welding shop in Laurel, Mississippi. Fucking motherfucker was charismatic as fuck. Made a shit ton of money. He couldn't read.
Yeah.
He couldn't read until much later. Like 20s, late 20s. When he married his second wife. His second wife taught him how to read.
I always thought
You would never know that he didn't know how to read.
That's what I'm saying. Some people are really good at like.
Yeah, he didn't really know how to count either. He
Right.
tried to people out, one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. That's how we count the shit out. But
Yeah.
And the weird thing was that he was very intelligent. It's just that when he was young, he was high strung and fucking didn't really want to be in school. He hated that shit. He was real defiant. Fucking typical Scots-Irish, Mississippi Scots-Irish motherfucker. You couldn't tell him anything until he got older, and then he realized, oh, shit, man, fucking, I should know these basic things. But he can read now.
Yeah.
And he could do mathematics. You know, it's just that education system doesn't work for everybody. Some little boys cannot sit still long enough to retain any information. They just I wasn't all that good at it until I was like maybe fucking 12, 13 maybe. But even then it was kind of, well, no, I was good up until about 13. That's what I'm saying. After 13, it was fucking, I was worried about girls more than anything else. And then later, in my 20s, that's when I started to really get interested in stuff like history, you know, and science. But there was that period of going through Ponfar, like the fucking Vulcans, where you just want to have sex.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a fucking classroom.
I mean, I had that too, but I actually really liked school. I was always really interested in.
I liked it because there were girls there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I particularly liked English and history and all that kind of stuff. I love that shit. And the thing about it is that I always like really admire people that don't learn to read or do math until they're like much older, because that must be so much harder. Think about how much harder that would be. Like here's the thing, I don't even remember learning to read.
No, I read it fucking like a year. I don't never remember. I was probably 2 and reading.
Yeah, that's what my mom and my grandmother
they all
told
said
me.
I could read.
They said you were. They said you were 2 and you were reading to the other kids.
Yeah, me and Jen have similar IQs, and fucking.
And I don't remember learning.
No, I don't remember anybody ever teaching me how to read.
Just like I don't remember learning how to swim. I just could.
Yeah, same thing. Swim since we were born. They put us in the water. We figured it out. And but no, I never remember learning how to read. I remember learning cursive.
Yeah, I remember that too.
That was all I can remember.
I remember that too. And that was probably 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah, I already remembered. I already knew how to spell.
Because I remember the paper and all that.
But it seemed to just... I remember them teaching me the alphabet.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, I was picking up the little Bible stories and reading.
Yeah.
And my mother being impressed. You can read it? Yeah, I can read it. I could see it.
Yeah.
And it was not conscious. It's just part of our autonomic nervous system, I guess. It was just automatic.
But yeah, well, I know some people like really struggle with it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just don't remember. I struggled with other things, but like not that.
If you have 120 IQ or above, you can read from birth. They just show you the alphabet.
I mean, you just kind of figure it out. I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said,
I don't remember what I did.
I don't remember learning.
Yeah, I don't think anybody taught me.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody teaching me really. I mean, maybe they did, but maybe I was too little to remember.
I remember singing the alphabet and seeing uppercase and lowercase letters like preschool. Because by preschool I could read.
Yeah, I could too.
Yeah.
It was funny because when I skipped kindergarten, which you can't really do anymore, but you could in the 70s. So I went right to 1st grade.
Yeah.
And when I was there, like a lot of the kids couldn't read yet or couldn't read that good.
Yeah.
And it's like I'd already been reading for several years at that point.
I could sit there and read whole stories of Noah out of the fucking.
So they moved me to another class.
The children's Bible book, have Noah and the flood and shit. Fucking, I could read it.
You might have had the same book as me.
It was white.
No, mine was blue.
It was blue. Okay,
it was blue, and it had like a painting of Noah's Ark on the front.
Yeah,
like it was a sky blue.
No, mine was blue.
And then it had white, yellow.
It looked like a Bible.
Like gold, like letters on it.
You opened it up, and there was fucking full page drawings.
My grandma gave it to me.
It even had a full page drawing of like fucking Nebuchadnezzar stuff with the fucking golden idol with the clay feet and shit.
Yeah, now see, I remember something like
Remember
that.
that? Yeah, with the wings coming out of the back.
Maybe
of it.
maybe we had the same book, but it was a different edition.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just used.
All the Bible stories.
Oh, yeah.
That's some Southern shit. Y'all don't know.
Like I said, my
Sounds
grandma gave it to me. My parents were
Yeah.
not religious.
Yeah. I think
And my grandma wasn't really religious either. I guess
Yeah.
she just thought maybe
that was
she's a little-
traditional stuff to give.
You just give it
I think
to a
I think
kid.
my grandparents gave that to me too.
That might have been the first thing that like kind of turned me into an atheist, because I think the Isaac story was in there.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that as a little
Yeah,
kid
that's
and
right.
being
There's
like,
a picture of fucking.
that is fucked up.
Yeah.
Even as a
Yeah.
kid, I was like, that's
Yeah.
fucked up. That's not right.
Yeah, there's a picture of fucking.
That's not
a
right.
picture of the dad with a dagger.
Yeah.
It's
I
the
was
same
like,
book. It's the same
I was like, why would God
Yeah.
ask you that? That's
We had that.
horrible.
I had that same book. Yeah, my grandparents gave it to me, but I could read it.
Yeah, I did too. It
a
was big. It
child's-
was thick.
It was thick, yeah, and
Like that
hardcover.
thick. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the
Might
same
have been
book.
the same book.
Same book.
But like I said, it
Gotta
was
be.
blue.
Mine was white.
Yeah.
I remember it white.
But it might have been the same book, just like a different
Probably
cover
just a
or
different
something.
edition or something. Because you were younger than me by several years.
Yeah, I'm like three or
So-
4 years younger
no,
than you.
mine was white.
So it might have been like a newer edition or whatever.
Yeah, and it had they were kind of like I don't want to say they were watercolors. They were like watercolors
Yeah, kind of.
drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the same.
I
book.
think it was the same book.
Same book. Yeah.
That must have been pretty popular
Yeah.
for grandparents to give to their
You're
grandkids.
right.
for their birthday or whatever.
Had all the Bible stories in it.
Like I said, I didn't believe any of that stuff even when I was little, but it's just like because I didn't grow up religious. I did like some of the stories though, but like I said, I think that's probably what made me an atheist, especially that Isaac story, because I was Abraham and Isaac. I was just kind of like, man, that is
Yeah.
messed up.
I didn't care if they were true or not. It didn't even cross.
I
my
didn't.
mind.
Well, I didn't either, but I kind of thought, well, a lot of people think these are true, but
Yeah.
that would be really messed up if they.
I
were.
never thought of them
So
as
no
true
thanks.
or false. I just saw them as good, as cool stories, wild ass tales.
Yeah.
You know. So
Well,
I
because I was really into Greek mythology, so
Yeah.
I kind of saw them the same way.
at
Except
3?
I thought-
4.
Yeah, or like
Really?
a little bit older.
Okay.
I was probably like 5 or 6, and like because I thought Greek mythology was like way cooler.
I thought it was all the same, and it didn't really. None of that.
But
philosophy.
I thought they were the same thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, Greek mythology is like so much cooler. They have like big monsters and shit.
Greco-Roman mythology had a lot of sex in it too.
Yeah, it was way
Sexual
better.
themes and shit.
Way better.
It
Way more
had-
interesting.
It had furries.
They had Medusa.
It has centaurs.
You can't compete with Medusa
Dudes
or the
run-
Kraken.
Dudes running around with a fucking horse
Sorry.
sticks and shit. Fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has some sexual shit.
Yeah,
going
you
on.
can't compete with that.
You
I'm
can't
sorry.
compete. How you
That's
gonna
like
compete with that
that's
dude?
way fucking cooler.
That dude's got a fucking 18-inch fucking schlong hanging. How you
That's
gonna
like
compete
way
with that
fucking
shit?
cooler.
Fucking Zeus shows up in the form of a bull to seduce your wife.
Yeah.
Fucking what kind of shit is that?
Or a swan. He was a
Or
swan
a swan,
sometimes.
dude. Yeah, fucking crazy ass shit, bro.
Can you imagine getting raped by a swan?
Yeah, kind of had that happen to me in a way, slightly.
Is this like that?
I was working at the
Is
rave.
this like that story on Wang where that you got like almost raped by an ostrich?
I was fucking working. I was putting up a trap house.
Oh, no.
We were fucking shooting trap, which
Yeah.
is, it was just, you know, it shoots clay pigeons, and you shoot them with a shotgun. It was when I was working at the range before I joined the army. And I was down in there. I was installing a new trap machine along with fucking William Whitman and fucking with the goose. We had a goose there. The goose jumped up on top of me when I was laying on my side, and I was like, "What the fuck is this dude doing?" And he goes, "He's cracking you. He's fucking you." And I was like, "Yeah, get the fuck off!"
Ew.
Get the fuck off.
Yeah, but like geese are notorious assholes.
Yeah, asshole.
Geese are assholes. I mean, they can't. That's just their nature, I guess. But yeah, geese are huge assholes. Yeah. So so yeah. All right. So where was I? So yeah. So this guy, because he seemed to have repented or seen the error of his ways, and people were just like read his book, and it's like, oh my god, that was so touching, and nobody that wrote anything like that could still be the monster, blah blah blah. So everybody starts, not everybody, but a large contingent of people started like campaigning for his release, like for him to be pardoned. And this started kind of in earnest like in 1985, so he'd already been in prison for a little while at that point. Now they took the petition to the president of Austria at the time, whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, but he was like, no, we're not doing that. Well, he said, look, the minimum, like if you get a life sentence, he's like, you have to serve minimum 15 years. And it's like, and he hasn't even served that yet. So get the fuck out of my office. I'm not sure if that's what he said, but you know what I mean. He's just basically like, no, we're not pardoning him. He hasn't even been in the minimum 15 years. So it's like, we're not going to do that. But yeah, so it's just, there was this big like groundswell, I guess, of like wanting to let him out. Now, eventually, after he had served his minimum 15 years, it was decided that he would be paroled. So I don't see, okay, because some sources say he was just released like free and clear. A lot of the sources say he was paroled, so I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem like he had to, because if you're paroled, you still have to like check in with a parole officer and you can't really go anyplace and there's like restrictions on you. And it doesn't seem like there was, but most of the sources say that he was paroled. So I don't know how that works. So he had served his minimum, 15 years. So they let him out in 1990. By the time they let him out, his book was even being taught in some schools. And like his children's stories that he had written, or plagiarized rather, were even like on little radio shows like for kids and stuff like that. It's crazy. So like he was actually in Austria, he was actually quite famous. Like, you know what I mean? And he would go on TV and talk about, his rehabilitation. And they even let him work as a journalist, like for ORF, which is kind of like the Austrian equivalent of BBC, I guess. And he was like a crime reporter with a particular interest in prostitution. So he would go and like interview sex workers and stuff like that, like for TV.
And they thought this was all right. This dude.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he'd been in for 15 years. Yeah. So people thought in that time that he had, particularly because of all the shit that he wrote, that he had sorted himself out and that he was okay now. I mean, clearly...
In the U.S., they wouldn't give a fuck. They'd be like,
clearly,
oh, no, that motherfucker is an ex-con, he's a sex offender. You'd be unemployed the rest of your life.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of feel like I said,
they don't trust
things,
sex offenders here.
Yeah, well, no. And probably rightly so.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it's something like non-violent, like you just did like a bank robbery where you just walked in with a note or
That's
something.
Violent. They
like,
call that violent.
Yeah, but I don't really consider that. Like if you go in like unarmed and you just have a note.
Yeah.
Like if somebody did a couple of those and then they were in prison for a long time and they were like, I'm like, that's probably all right. But if you do violent shit, particularly sexually violent shit, I do not think those people can be rehabilitated.
The ones that have the highest recidivism are things having to do with any kind of sex crime, any kind of drug addiction related crime.
Yeah.
Those dudes, they're fucked. Guys that do violent crimes, like she's talking about, bank robberies, murders, a lot of times, as long as it didn't have a sexual or a drug element, they're good to go. They have a lower recidivism rate. In other words, they don't come back to prison. And some people's like, well, murder, how could that be? Well, the U.S. is a different environment, okay? Especially in places like the South. It's an honor culture here, and there's very much a fucking tradition of dueling, basically. And sometimes you have a situation where two dudes are trying to kill each other. And then the survivor is prosecuted, okay? He might end up with a manslaughter. And manslaughter here fucking carries like 0 to 40 years. It's even probatable, all right, depending on what the exact circumstance is. But chances are, if you do a manslaughter, you kill a guy in a fight against a willing combatant, a guy who's fighting you, you're probably gonna do about 10 years. But those dudes tend not to come back. And then the same thing with like robbery. If the dude is committing the robbery because he's fueling a drug habit, he's going to come back. If he's doing the robbery because he thinks that fucking he's just going to make a lot of money, he's not really addicted to drugs. He says, I can make fucking $7,000 on this bitch. I'm going to fucking steal it. You know? If he gets popped, they're probably going to give him 5 to 10 years. But they have a low recidivism rate. They're like, that shit wasn't worth it. So they don't do it again.
Because shit like that, they're only doing it for monetary gain.
Yeah.
They're not doing it out of desperation.
And they're not doing it because of a sex drive or a drug lust.
Right. Yeah. I think shit like that. Difference. Yeah, crimes like that. Like I said, so like kind of crimes like just like petty theft or even like stealing cars or something like that. If you're just doing it for monetary purposes and then you go to prison for a long time and you're like, yeah, like you said, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
I think those people can be, because it's not violent. It's not a violent.
Then there's a whole there's a whole species of murderer who, dude killed his dad, murdered his dad on purpose, but the dad was beating the fuck out of him and his fucking mom on a regular basis, and he's like, well, I'm gonna knock this bitch off, and while I'm at it, I'm gonna fucking put a life insurance on him, and then knock him off.
I mean, that's understandable.
You know, so we can have something to live off. He owes us.
I don't feel too bad.
They got dudes that do that.
Yeah.
You get caught, you're gonna do 20 years.
You
probably.
are, yeah.
But they'll let you out probably.
And like,
If you
well,
can prove
because
your
there's
case.
extenuating circumstances, and I think
yeah.
most juries would be sympathetic.
Yeah, they're like,
you're
yeah,
still gonna get time.
You're gonna get
though.
time, but
They're not
like,
just gonna let you go.
But chances of you actually getting like,
But
life,
people are like, yeah, but that dude was such a piece of shit. It's like, I probably would have done the same thing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
But this is also depending on the state.
yeah, true.
Some states, second degree murder is life automatically, especially some of the southern states. You can get sometimes an eligibility for parole in a life sentence, but rare. But it all just depends. Sometimes you can have a fucking conviction overturned and then resentenced. That can happen. Depends on how hard the dude's fighting to get out. And they can say, well, we're going to turn it into a manslaughter.
Yeah.
And time served. That could happen.
I mean, shit, I was just watching, because, you know, I've been watching that true crime show, Perfect Murder.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker on here, I think he poisoned his wife.
Yeah.
And they found out that his first wife had also died at the age of 25 from a very mysterious ailment. They never prosecuted him for that, but it's just kind of like they just thought she was sick and died and stuff. So that dude got away with that, even though the family was suspicious at the time, being like, hey, I'm pretty sure he poisoned her. But, like, nobody did anything about it. So he got away with it for a long time. Then he married again.
And did it again.
And she died.
Yeah.
Like, she died too.
Yeah.
They caught him for that, but...
So they'll get you through, if they start seeing patterns form around you, they'll get you that way.
There's this one motherfucker on there that did that to his wife, that poisoned his wife, and then he kind of got... Did he get caught and then, like, he did a little prison time or they let him out or something like that? And then, like, immediately, like, he gets another girlfriend and then she's like, well, I feel kind of sick. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, dude, are you doing it again?
It's like Munchausen by proxy.
Like, they were still, like, he was still under surveillance for the other thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you stupid or what? Jesus Christ. He's not not criminal mastermind. I guess they can't help themselves.
I think what happens is one, like you said, they're mid-range IQ. They think they're a criminal mastermind. They think they're smarter than the cops.
Which they are not.
And fucking, they get away with it once, and they think that, well, I can get away with it again.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're going to be surrounded by all these weird fucking disappearances and or suspected murders, and they're all around you. No, they're going to come get you.
Yeah, they're going to find that out
They'll figure
eventually.
that shit out.
Like, yeah, you might walk around loose for a long time.
Yeah, it might take years.
But they're eventually going to catch up with your stupid ass if you keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yep.
Especially if you're just, like, under your real name.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They can catch you a lot quicker nowadays. So, yeah. So they let this motherfucker out in 1990. And literally, I don't even think it was 6 months. It might have just been, like, a few weeks or something. When did they let him out? Like, did I say? Okay, so they let him out May 23rd, 1990. And then in September 15th of 1990, they found a body in the Czech Republic, what was then Czechoslovakia, near Prague, in a river. Now, this woman was named Blanka Bokova. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And she was left... This was a very common thing that he would do with his later victims. He left them in really, I guess, like, embarrassing or disparaging poses. Like, he was trying to shame them, I guess. So she was found... She was naked. She was laying on her back. And he had knotted... She had these gray stockings, and he had knotted them around her neck. And he, like, he had her legs, like, wide open. I think a couple of them he even, like, had them like turned over with like their butt and their like vagina like up in the air. So like whoever saw them, like they would just be completely exposed. Like he was real into doing that kind of shit because he was a sick motherfucker. So yeah, so he left her like that. Now, this woman I don't believe was a sex worker. I've seen some other things say maybe she was, or like occasionally, because I know that some women that had regular jobs, like sometimes they would just do occasional sex work, like if they needed some cash or something like that. So that might have been the case here, but I don't know. I think she just worked in a butcher shop. So she had actually, the night before she turned up dead, she had been out with her friends, like, you know, just out hanging out with, having drinks or whatever, in Wenceslas Square, which I guess was kind of a chi-chi kind of fancy area. And her friends left like a little before midnight, but she decided to hang out. And I guess witnesses said that she was last seen talking to a dude who was around 40 years old. But that was the last time she was seen alive. And then they found her dead the next day. They're presuming that that was him, but they don't really know. So a few weeks after that, so like I said, he's only been out for like a couple months and he's already fucking started back. You know what I mean? So a couple weeks after that, another woman, this was a sex worker, her name was Brunhilde Masser, and she was from Graz in Austria, and she was reported missing. And the authorities were kind of worried because, like I said, they don't, you know, prostitute murders were quite rare. Well, murders in general were pretty rare there. But, you know, so anytime anybody came up missing, they were just like, oh, this is bad. So they're going to, like, investigate, you know what I mean? So they were kind of, like, on the lookout for her. And then 2 months after she went missing, another sex worker named Heidi Marie Hammerer, she also disappeared. Now, they didn't find her until a month later. They found her on New Year's Eve. And she was found, like, in the woods. Like, some hikers found her. And she was also found, same kind of way, like a very degrading pose. She was on her back, and she had been covered with dead leaves and stuff. It looked like, though, I think she was dressed because it looked like he had put her clothes back on her and then dragged her through the woods. And he had taken off a piece of her slip and stuffed it into her mouth. She had probably been tied up with something because there were ligature marks on her wrists. And she had also been strangled with her own tights. Now, they did find some red fibers on her. She wasn't wearing anything red, so they presumed this belonged to the killer, so they kept those. But they did note that they didn't find any seminal fluid on her, you know, on or in her body or on her clothes anywhere. So as I mentioned, I kind of feel like this, maybe the killing is the sexual thing. He did, like I said, some of the earlier ones that he did in Austria, he did rape them with a bar, but then, like, he jerked off at the same time. And some of the later ones that he did, they did find seminal fluid, like, on the body, like he had jerked off on them. So, but this is not doing anything to disabuse me of the notion of the sometime impotence theory.
Sounds like it, yeah.
I kind of feel like, yeah. So, a few days after they found her body, they found the body of the woman that had gone missing previously, Brunhilde Masser, and she was quite badly decomposed because it had been quite a while, it had been a few months since she had disappeared, and they again found her in the woods, and she looked pretty much the same as the first two victims. Now, at this stage, no one was really, I don't think Unterweger was on anyone's radar at this stage. Because the cops, at this point, they're only talking about two. There have been three, but they were only investigating two because Blanka Bokova happened in Prague. That happened in the Czech Republic, like in another country. So they weren't aware of that. So they didn't really know, like, serial killer yet. And they didn't really know, like, obviously they went through the whole thing. It's like they're looking through their clients and everything like that, but they couldn't really find anything, you know. But then, in early March of 1991, another sex worker named Elfriede Schrempf, I guess I'm pronouncing that sort of correctly, she also disappeared, also from Graz in Austria. And after she disappeared, her parents actually called the cops and said this dude has been calling here and kind of like prank calling them, like, about what a whore their daughter was. And that was, I mean, they're presuming that was the killer because he knew details about it.
Wonder how you found their number.
And the thing, well, that's what they were wondering because
Yeah.
it's like her phone number was unlisted. So they're like, whoever called must have
He went through her shit.
gone through her shit. Like, so he must
Yeah.
be the killer.
Yeah.
So that's what the parents thought. That's why they called the cops.
And he's humiliating the dead victim.
Yeah. Like over the
Your
phone, like
daughter's
to their
fucking
parents.
selling pussy.
Yeah. Which I'm sure they probably already knew. Like I said, it was legal, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know the culture. Maybe they kept it on the down low.
Maybe, I don't know. Papa 77 said, didn't this guy write about his own crimes for a newspaper? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. We'll get into that in a bit. So they found this girl's body, this woman's body, in October of 1991. And they found her in the woods, just outside of Graz. And she was just a skeleton at this point, also covered in leaves. And at this stage, it seemed they realized, oh shit, it's a serial killer, you know. And then 4 more, like over a pretty brief period of time, 4 more sex workers disappeared. But this happened in Vienna. So, and this all happened in a very brief span of time, like 4 weeks. These women's names were Sylvia Zagler, Sabine Moitzi, Regina Prem, and Karen Iroglu. And all of them disappeared in the same month. Now, they found Sabine Moitzi's body in May of 1992. And then Karen Iroglu's body. They had both been strangled and dumped in the woods outside of Vienna. And they, you know, the MO was exactly the same. They had all been strangled with an article of their own undergarments. Now, here's the thing about it. Regina Prem, she was a sex worker, but she was married and her husband knew about it. Like, I think he was disabled or something like that, and they had talked about it, and she's like, man, I'm just going to go.
She's making money.
And she's just how I'm making, so he was all right with it. And he was beside himself, like, when she disappeared. And he helped out the cops a lot and, like, offered all this money as a reward and stuff.
How old was she?
And I'm not entirely sure.
These people are couples, they're right in their 30s, probably.
Yeah, I think they're right around there.
Yeah.
But he also started getting phone calls from who were led to assume is Unterweger. And he would basically say that he was her executioner.
Yeah.
God told me to do it. She was left at a place of sacrifice and her face was turned towards hell. Like, he would say shit like that, like over the phone, to her husband. I'm like, wow.
So he's trying to fucking punish the loved ones.
Yeah, like, other than being a serial killer.
Trying to maximize the suffering.
Because I've told you this before, like, many times. It's like, it's bad enough that you're a fucking serial killer, and then you have to be this douchey edgelord on top of it with all of this kind of bullshit. Like, oh my god, I just can't stand it.
Holmes did the same thing. No,
Yeah.
Holmes did that, and so did Albert Fish.
Yeah.
Calling the parents to tell them what their little daughter tasted like, and that she cried.
Yeah, she, like, sent him letters and stuff.
Yeah.
He sent him letters.
Yeah, but I did not fuck her. I just killed her. Yeah, that's
Yeah, he
weird,
said that in the letter.
Weird shit. Cooked her in a stew.
Yeah, and he's so...
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Talking
Like,
about
I
how
can't
fucking
imagine.
delicious her booty was. Just
Yeah.
fucking weird shit, bro.
These people, like...
Yeah, he told the
People.
family that to make them suffer.
Yeah.
He's trying to spread the suffering around.
Yeah, they get off on it.
Yeah.
Like I said, they get a fucking chub.
And it was
regardless of how
probably
big people.
true.
It probably was.
Probably
Like I said, he
was.
might have exaggerated some just to, like, make
Yeah.
it worse. Like, to twist the knife in some. But...
To be fair to Albert Fish, though, he was a sadomasochist. He did fucking horrible shit to himself, too.
He
Stick
did.
needles up in his taint and leave them in there. He had needles all throughout his body during they x-rayed him after the execution.
The x-ray of his taint is really something.
Yeah, he was just fucking filled with needles. He tried to make himself suffer. But he thought he had a Jesus Christ thing going on, where he was big into Christ's crucifixion and suffering and renewal and rebirth, and so he thought he could do whatever he wanted to you as long as he fucking made himself suffer with a tone, like flagellation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I can't imagine the fucking... Because, like, look,
Sadomasochism.
I think some weird shit sometimes. And like I said, I write horror stories, so it's like I have to think of weird shit. But it's just like the train of my thoughts doesn't run in that direction. It's just that wouldn't occur to me.
Well,
it wouldn't occur to me.
You're not a sadomasochist at
No.
the sexual level,
No.
where at that intensity. But Fish was.
Yeah.
Sick bitch.
Yeah.
He's also a lying motherfucker too, though. So
Well, that's true.
just a pervert, you know.
I told you before, please, if because I know I talk about Time Suck a lot because I love that podcast, but it's
Yeah.
like if you Please go listen to his podcast about Albert Fish. It is one of the funniest fucking things ever.
That's,
like, it's a horrible, horrible topic.
Yeah.
But, like...
He's one of the worst. And it was a long
Some
time
of the shit that like, Dan Cummins said in there was just like, oh my god, I was
when
fucking...
was that?
I was dying.
1920s? 1910s?
Yeah, something like that. It was early
Yeah,
19th. It was early
ago.
20th century, rather.
One of the worst ones is from that time.
Yeah.
People don't realize that the olden days weren't all that good. They had some
They
bad
really weren't.
shit
There were
happen
some
going on.
fucked up people.
It's just that you didn't hear about it.
Yeah. Like I said, now it seems bad now because it's like you
Yeah.
hear about everything from everywhere, like all over the world. But back then, you didn't. It's no worse. And in fact, it's probably much better than it used to be back then. It's just
Yeah,
you didn't hear about
Probably a
it.
little bit better. Back then, you didn't hear about it, or if it was really bad, they wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't put it in the newspaper. Like, oh, I can't put that in the paper.
Yeah.
So they were like that.
That's too fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after all of this, you know, when the four women disappeared, like in this really short time span, at this point, like I said, they know they're dealing with a serial killer. But at this point, there's a dude who has who he actually worked on the Unterweger case in the 70s, and his name was August Schenner, and he had retired at this point because he was like in his 70s, and he remembered that motherfucker. And he was just kind of like, you know, this sounds a lot like that fuckhead from back in the 70s that was in prison and then they let him out. It's like, maybe we should look into that guy. But the thing about it was that because Unterweger had become such a media darling and such an icon of, hey, like, rehabilitation works, I kind of think that some police and some politicians were reluctant to look into him. Like, not all the cops, because some of the cops were like, yeah, we're pretty sure that's him. But there was like a contingent where like, nah, it can't be. You know what I mean? He's got rehabilitated. He's on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it can't be him. So there was so there was definitely like a conflict between, but this dude, he remembered the shit because, like I said, he worked on it in the 70s, and he's like, this very similar. I think it's the same guy. So he was kind of like looking into it. And so he's retired, like I said. But he goes back and interviews little old Barbara Schultz, who was, you know, his girlfriend that had helped him kill that first girl, back in the 70s. And he went back and talked to her, and she's like, yeah, like, we, you know, kidnapped, and he took her into the woods and tied her up and raped her with a pole and then fucking all this other kind of stuff.
How did he actually kill her?
Strangled her.
Okay.
And, yeah. And so, I mean, like I said, and he would not confess to that either. Like, he put it in his book.
Yeah.
But he put it in his book as a fictional, I don't remember if it was like a dream but like a fictional thing. And he's just like, I was on drugs and I had this hallucination that it was my mom. And I killed her because I hated my mom so much and blah, blah, blah. Hey, it's Pookie.
Yep.
Pookie's on the show. Pookie only sometimes gets on the show.
She's gonna jump.
It's a very
back down
special
in a minute.
appearance.
I don't care about
It's
this.
a very special appearance by
care about
Pookie.
this?
She's like, I don't want to be
You
in
don't
your
care
lap,
about
Daddy.
this?
I love you, but I don't want to be in your lap.
You came up to me. I'm gonna fucking do what I want.
She's like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr."
Yeah.
Aw,
Okay, you can jump down.
she loves her daddy, but she does not like being in the lap.
No, she's not a lap kitty.
No, Bambi isn't either. Pookie wants everything on her own terms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But she came right back.
She came right back.
She
Hey,
came right
Daddy,
back.
Daddy. Hey, Daddy.
Daddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You gonna give me a meat stick or what?
I'll put you back on my lap.
She's like, no.
Put you back on my lap. She's running.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So this guy like starts digging deeper into, like I said, he's going back and re-interviewing like all the other people and stuff like that. And the thing about it too is that even back at the time, there was a psychologist that had examined him, and even the psychologist in his original trial called him a sexually sadistic psychopath with narcissistic and histrionic tendencies, prone to fits of rage and anger. He is an incorrigible perpetrator. The psychologist said that in the 70s.
Yeah.
And yet, they still let him out. So the psychologist knew what was up. He's like, maybe we probably shouldn't let this dude out ever. But they did, and, you know, that's how that happened. Like, you know, 9, 10 people dead, probably 11 people were dead. Probably shouldn't have been. So this investigator is like, look, this dude is like a classic psychopath. He's very charming. He's very manipulative. And he's been able to bamboozle a large segment of the public into thinking that he has been rehabilitated and he's a great guy now and blah de blah. So, you know, he read through his books and everything like that, and it's like, oh my god, he's just trying to like garner sympathy for what a shitty childhood he had, and it's like trying to get everybody to understand where he's coming from, man, and he didn't mean to do all of that and blah de blah. So there was that. Now, so like I said, there was kind of this conflict though, because he was just kind of like, look, we need to look into this guy, and other cops were like, no, it couldn't be him possibly. Now, while all of that was going on, now Unterweger actually had, like I said, he never had any problem getting women, even women that knew, although I will note, as far as I'm aware, the women that he was kind of in serious relationships didn't know the details. I think they knew he'd killed somebody, but I don't think they knew the details. You know what I mean? Because to a man, it seems like every time one of them went back and actually read the court transcript, like what he'd done to that girl back in the 70s, they were like, oh, fuck this. And they were out. You know what I mean? I think they just thought, oh, he killed somebody and he didn't mean it and blah, blah, blah. But when the rubber hit the road and they actually read what happened to her, then they were like, oh, shit, this dude's like a psychopath. Yeah. So I think they didn't realize. So he was, like I said, he was very much able to, like, bamboozle people. But he'd had, like, kind of all of these relationships. Like, he knew lawyers and journalists and, you know, and he had all these students and stuff. And he had a girlfriend at this time. Her name was Margret Schäfer. She was a journalist for a magazine. Now, here's what some of the people in the chat were talking about. So in the summer of 1991, and he's killed several people by this stage, Jack is hired by an Austrian magazine to go to Los Angeles and write an article about the differences between the European versus the U.S. attitudes about prostitution. Because, you know, like we were discussing earlier. And so he's like, all right, fine. So they flew him to Los Angeles. He goes to Los Angeles and he goes and meets, like, LAPD officers. He goes on a ride along, like in the fucking police car, like to crime scenes and shit. Goes to all the red light districts, like talks to sex workers in the US and LA. And it will shock no one that during the time that he was here in Los Angeles, he went to Malibu also, working on this article about sex workers. And he was a big advocate for sex workers too. Like, he'd always be like, oh, we should, you know, the U.S., they should legalize it and it should be much safer, and which is true, they should. But while he was saying all of that, he also killed 3 sex workers in L.A.
Damn.
2 in L.A. and 1 in Malibu, actually. And he was writing about this shit, like, the whole time. And like I said, even when he was back in Austria, like, they were asking him to, like, go write about crimes, and, like, some of them were crimes that he did. You know what I mean? And he's writing about them, like, as a journalist. Like, I'm like, that's fucking unbelievable. That's crazy. So, yeah. So, June 20th of 1991, the first of his 3 victims was found. This was Shannon Exley. She was 35 years old. And they found her naked body in Boyle Heights. She had her bra wrapped around her neck. Now, they did get DNA from her, but it was, you know, she was a sex worker, so it was like 7 different dudes. But they didn't, but they didn't really have.
Imagine that poor girl.
I know. That's what I mean. I feel really bad.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for her.
Low-end fucking sex worker. You got to do all those dudes in one day. Fuck.
Yeah, it's just like one after the other. It's just like you can't even wash in between.
Yeah, that shit. Don't do that. Don't do that shit, girls.
I mean, like I said, the only people that do like street prostitution are desperate people.
Gotta be desperate.
Like, they're either super super broke or they're super super drug addicted. That's really the only reason.
Or they're fucking in the grips of some fucking.
Or they're pimped out. Like they get like, or they get trafficked.
Scared of,
So there's that. But they didn't, so they didn't really have any other profiles to compare them to, so it's like, okay, so we don't know if one of these dudes is the killer or what. Then, 10 days later, they found another body in right around the same area, and this was a 33-year-old woman named Irene Rodriguez, and she got found behind like a, like one of those big semi-trucks, She was only about a mile away from the first body was found. She had also been strangled with her bra. That was kind of a signature of his. And then on July 10th, they found the third victim. She was 26-year-old Peggy Booth. She was also a sex worker. And they actually found her in Malibu, like laying in a canyon. Now, because of, like I said, they had all been strangled with their bras, that
was a thing.
They had also all been raped. I don't know if it was vaginally or anally with a tree branch.
Okay.
Like all three of them.
So that was his thing.
Yeah. Like I said, he was using metal bars before, but I guess he just used whatever was at hand, sadly. So, here's a fun fact. While he was in L.A., he stayed at the notorious Cecil Hotel. We talked about the Cecil Hotel some when we did the show about Elisa Lam.
That the girl that fell in the damn water.
Yeah, or whatever the fuck happened. Yeah. Like with the weird video where she was in the elevator and everything. That was so fucking creepy. I think she was high and
she jumped down in the water.
I think so too. But like I said, there's like a whole... They still haven't really figured out what the fuck happened to that girl. But the Cecil Hotel, it's kind of infamous for, in modern day because of that. But it's just kind of like before that, because it's been around a long time. I think even the Black Dahlia stayed there, like, not long before she was murdered. Richard Ramirez used to stay there. Like, so, and there's, like, been all kind of, like, suicides and murders and, like, all kind of... So it's kind of, like, well-known for not any good reasons, you know what I mean? It started out as kind of, like, a fancy place, but then it turned into kind of a flop house. I think it's been renovated since then. I heard that it was maybe apartments now, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's pretty famous for being kind of, like... almost like a cursed fucking place where, like, people, like, a woman, like, threw her baby out the window. There's, like, all kind of horrible shit. That was, like, back in the 30s or something. Like, all kind of horrible shit happened there. But this motherfucker stayed there. I don't know if he just stayed there because it was there or if he stayed there because, like, ooh, Richard Ramirez. You know what I mean? I don't know. It could have been either thing, to be honest. Like, maybe he just thought it was funny. That it's like, hey, this place is famous because of Richard Ramirez. And among other things. So he's living the life in L.A., getting ride-alongs with the fucking cops. Meanwhile, killing sex workers, and they're just, like, investigating what the fuck is going on. They don't know. But then, like, while he's doing that, back in Austria, they're finally starting to say, hey, we need to investigate this Unterweger motherfucker. So even before he went to the U.S., they kind of had him low-key under surveillance. You know what I mean? But then it's like they couldn't really see anything. Like, he wasn't doing anything suspicious. So it's like they didn't really have any hard evidence. So they followed him for a little while. And they even, like, brought him in a couple times after he came back. They questioned him a couple of times, like, in Vienna. And, it was just kind of like this. And he did another thing, too, where he called, remember Regina Prem, one of the women that was killed? He called her husband again and told him where he could find the body, but it wasn't where it was. So he was just, like, fucking around with the dude. But they did find her diary where she wrote down all her clients and stuff, and he was in there a bunch of times. So it's like, it wasn't just... He was another motherfucker like that guy that we talked about before that was, like, killing sex workers. Like, sometimes they would go to the same ones, like, over and over again, and then they would kill them. So it's like, so they would, like, earn their trust, kind of. I kind of feel like this dude was doing that, too, like, in some cases. Because she had had him as a client, like, a few times before, like, he killed her, because it was in her diary. So like I said, they're watching this motherfucker. And so when he goes to LA, like, the cops in Austria are like, like, isn't it interesting how, like, murders here stopped? And then they contacted the authorities in LA and then found out that they had three very similar murders there, like, with the same knot and everything. They're like, this is the same motherfucker. And then they started pulling, like, all of his credit card records and all this other kind of stuff, like, even from, like, past shit, because they're like... And they were able to match up, like, every single murder that was similar. Like, he was always there. Like, they could always place him, like, in that city, like, at the same time.
Yeah, Susan Burgess. Yeah, that's the same place, I believe, Sid and Nancy, when Nancy got killed. And also, what's his name? Fucking Johnny Thunder. Not the Sid and Nancy one.
Was it? Oh, wait, it said we disconnected.
I did. Yeah.
Hopefully.
It got to be back.
Okay, yeah. We just kind of went off for a second.
No, it was California, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was the Cecil.
I think it was the Cecil.
It might have been. Like I said.
That's where all the artists and...
Yeah, I forgot. Because it was, like I said, it was real cheap. It was like a flop
cheap,
house.
Yeah. So, they're the same. I think it was the same hotel.
Yeah.
When Sid didn't kill Nancy on purpose, though, that was that would have been a manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it would.
He would have been probated out. Because she got stabbed. She didn't run for help.
Yeah.
They were together for a long time. She ended up dying later.
Yeah.
She could have stabbed herself also. Cause she was the type.
That's,
you motherfucker! Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of... Yeah, she was the type to do that.
I mean, they were high as balls.
They were high as balls, yeah.
So...
And they were both crazy.
Yeah,
and
so...
they loved each other, though. So in
their own fucked up way.
Yeah,
I do believe they did. We did a show about them, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. It's very sad. It's a sad...
Yeah. It was more of an accident. It was a high couple. They got high, they were high, and then...
And they made some very stupid decisions.
Yeah, some kind of accident happened. She didn't go running off to the fucking law enforcement. Hey, he stabbed me. That didn't happen. She died a lot. That had happened hours and hours before. It could have been self-inflicted. He didn't remember what happened.
Yeah, did Johnny Thunders die at the Cecil? I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah,
I do remember the Sid and Nancy thing.
A bunch of dudes died in there.
That's what I'm saying. It's like kind of famous for that.
Yeah.
And like I said, Richard Ramirez like lived there for a time also. But it's
cheap,
and it's going back to like the 20s or 30s.
Yeah,
like all kind of suicides and shit happened.
It was cheap to live in there, and fucking it was kind of cool to live in there, even though it was supposed to be a pit.
Yeah, I heard
you had a lot of cool people living in there.
Yeah,
for the time.
I think it's apartments now, but I'm not entirely sure. If anybody lives in that area, like let me know. That's what I heard. I don't know, because I know for a while that they made it into like a nicer.
Yeah.
Like the main part of the hotel, because it's big, it's like a big building. Like the main part of the Cecil was still there, but it had like a separate entrance. But then they opened up like kind of a little boutique hotel I think it was called State on Main, and that looked okay. Like it looked like they were trying to, make it a little bougie. But last I heard, I think in 2021, I think they turned it into apartments, but I'm not sure.
And the Chinese girl, she wasn't murdered. They got her on video.
I don't think so.
Acting crazy and playing with herself in the mirrors and shit and playing. She was.
I think she was also high as balls. Although they didn't find any drugs in her system, though.
She was. Well, it's hard to find LSD in your system.
That's true. It might have been that. She might have been hallucinating.
Yeah, I think she was hallucinating on some kind of a hallucinogen. And I think she went up on the roof and took that fucking lid off and saw water down in there. And I'm going to go for a swim. But she didn't realize there's no way to come out.
Yeah.
There's no ladder to come back up.
Right.
So she treaded water in there for a long time and then just drowned. Yeah.
Which is really, like I said, that's really sad.
Yeah. Which if you're going to fucking put a lid on top of the damn water reservoir, make sure there's a fucking ladder that goes all the way down to the damn bottom of the damn water reservoir.
I mean, you'd think that would be common sense because it's like people have to go in there and maintain it, right?
There was no way out of there. If you fell in that fucking water container, there'd be no way out.
Yeah.
You could just swim, but you couldn't reach the exit. There's nothing you could climb up on. Just, there's a lawsuit there if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I would think. And like I said, that just seems really dumb. Because like I said, don't people have to go in there and like maintain it? And, accidents could happen.
You would think so.
So you would think like
just... I think what the protocol was is to drain the tank and you put a ladder down in there and climb down there and clean the walls and then you take the ladder up. But there's got to be a way to come back out of there if you fall in.
I mean, it would cost like literally like what?
$20?
Like $10 to like put a fucking...
It'd be more.
I know. I'm just.
You just buy a ladder and fucking bolt it to there. You fucking
that's all you gotta
$80, and you can have a fucking ladder permanently attached.
Yeah.
That's what happened to that poor girl.
Yeah,
she died treading water.
Yeah, that's like really scary.
Yeah, and she might have been in there for days treading water.
Yeah, and it's like I don't. Yeah, because I don't know if she like came out of it and was like realized like what a fucking pickle she was in.
Yeah,
that would have been
you
fucking...
couldn't yell to get out.
That'd be like horrifying. Yeah, no one would hear you.
She might have been in there 2-3 days treading water and floating.
Yeah, no one would hear you. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, she was dead in there for a long time before they found her, and like people were drinking that fucking water in the hotel.
Dead body water.
Dead body water.
Little Chinese girl, dead body water.
Yeah.
Cute little chick.
They did not find her for a long time.
Yeah, fucking terrible.
Because why would you think to look in there?
Right.
Like nobody would think to look in there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was only because they were talking about like how weird the water tasted.
Yeah.
And then they would go in there check. We did a whole show about that too. That's like fucking creepy. But yeah, so like I said, they were finally able to kind of match his movements by his credit card receipts and things like that he had always been like in every city where all these murders were taking place, because they were all very similar. And then they also found out, like, they had some witnesses that said Heidi Marie Hammer, who was, you know, one of the women that was murdered, you know, the description of the man that she was seen before she went missing, like, looked a lot like him. And they also described him as wearing a brown leather jacket and a red scarf. And remember that one of the victims had, like, red fibers on their body. And they had other witnesses, too, that had seen some of the women, like, with a dude that fit his description, like, before they went missing. So he came back to Austria, and upon I guess when he came back in the country, he realized, oh shit, I'm a murder suspect. So what he immediately started doing, like, was he went on the defensive, or maybe on the offensive, because he started writing articles. He was a journalist, right? So he started writing articles about how lame the police force were. It's like, I'm innocent. He's accusing an innocent man. They're trying to frame me. You know, they can't find the killer, so they're trying to pin it on me, blah, blah, blah. So he was just, like, playing the victim the whole time, right? Because he knew he still had a lot of supporters out there, and a lot of supporters did, like, they supported him pretty much until the end, until, like, the trial, when all the details started coming out, and then people were like, okay, bro, no. We maybe thought you were innocent before, but now it's kind of, like, overwhelming. But he still did have a lot of supporters at this point that thought maybe he was being railroaded. So that was kind of how he was trying to paint it.
That's cranberry there.
Oh, thanks. So I got cranberry and vodka. So yeah, so I guess he went on the offensive, like, against the police, like, saying they were fucking everything up. So basically they're like, okay, well, we need to nail this dude, because they're pretty sure at this point that it's like, this is our man. So, like, we need to get as much evidence as possible so we can fucking get him, like, when we get to trial, you know what I mean? Like I said, they always have to have as much evidence as possible. So they start interviewing all these sex workers that he had visited, all this other kind of stuff. And they started doing, like, any evidence they had, they started doing forensic tests on it. They did actually find a car of his. It was a BMW, and he had bought it, like, when he got out of prison in 1990. And they tracked it down, and they did a sweep on it, and they found a bit of hair in there, and they were able to get enough DNA out of that hair to prove that it belonged to one of the victims, Blanka Bakova, who was the first victim he'd killed in Prague in the Czech Republic. Now, just because her hair was in the car, that doesn't mean that he killed her necessarily. I mean, because she was a sex worker, so he'd be like, oh, well, she was just in my car. You know what I mean? That doesn't prove that he killed her. But, you know, it's a little piece of circumstantial evidence. And it was enough evidence that they were able to get a warrant to search his house or his apartment. He was living in Vienna at this point. And in the apartment, they found a brown leather jacket and a red scarf, just like the one that the witness had described as he was wearing, like, when he was seen last with one of the victims. They also came across, like, a bunch of receipts from, like, restaurants and stuff in Malibu, from the time where that woman in Malibu in California was killed. So they're like, okay, well, obviously that puts him there at the right time. So that's pretty suspicious. And they also, like, found a bunch of pictures of him with the LAPD. And so at this point, they're kind of calling the LAPD also, and, you know, finding out it's like, yeah, we have 3 sex worker killings here too, and they're very similar. So it's like, okay, well, obviously he was doing this shit. So by the time they had gathered enough evidence to arrest him, they went to his flat, but he had amscreed. Like, by the time they got there, he had already, like, fucking beat feet. He was gone. So at this point, he has yet another teenage girlfriend who was 18. Her name was Bianca Mrak, I think is how you pronounce her last name. Not sure if that's correct. They fled to Switzerland, and then they went to France, and then they got to the U.S. So they were just, like, chasing him everywhere. Finally, U.S. Marshals tracked them down in Miami, Florida, on February 27th, 1992. While he was on the run, this dumb motherfucker had called press in Austria and tried to tell them that he was innocent and that they were trying to frame him and that he was being railroaded. Like the whole time, like that he was on the run. He was like calling them to see, like I said, trying to drum up support, which kind of worked, but ultimately. So they caught him in Miami. So they extradited him back to Austria in May of 1992. And at this point, they charged him with 11 murders. Now, he again had 2 girlfriends at this point because, it's not good enough. He's too cool to just have 1 girlfriend. He's got to have 2 at least. You know what I mean? Got to have a little harem. Got a little harem going on. Tom's like, what's the matter with that?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what's going on. I mean, if you're recruiting them and they're your girlfriends, and it's not problem. But I think that's not what was going on with this dude.
I don't think that's what's going on.
What's going on with this dude?
I kind of feel like there's not much consensual kind of stuff going on with this motherfucker.
He's recruiting hookers.
Yeah.
Hooker girlfriends. That's what he's doing.
Although these 2 were not, I think these were slightly older. One of them was a lawyer, actually.
Okay.
I don't know what the other one was.
Did they know about each other?
I think they did.
Okay. Well, then that's fair game.
All right.
Here we go. Papa 77.
Thank you very much.
His pansexual ass one's going to fucking chime in. What do you say?
Says, here's another from Shaby. She is upstairs making dinner and listening to another great show from you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you, Shaby. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. I was like, I really got into this topic. I know I say that a lot because I don't know what is wrong with me, but all the true crime shit, I just get like super into it. Like, and I do these deep dives. I'm like, man, that is so fucked up. You know what I mean?
It's almost time for you to write another book.
I did write another book. I just haven't formatted it yet.
Is that formatted yet? Okay.
I just haven't formatted it
yet.
Okay. I got to do.
Well, shit, we need to get that bitch up there.
I know. I just haven't had. I just
equipment.
haven't had time.
Get the audio version going and put that bitch up.
I mean, I'm gonna put the ebook is pretty much done. I just want to go another sweep through it and make sure I didn't fuck anything up.
All right.
And make sure all the links work and everything like that. And then I have to format the print version, do the cover. I already have the art for the cover. I just haven't done the cover.
I got the microphone back there.
Yeah, and then I'll put the ebook and the print book up first, and then I'll slowly do the audio.
We'll have to make a sound booth in here.
No, it'll be all right.
Be all right. Okay.
I mean, they usually.
All right.
It usually comes out okay.
Okay. Last time I had her in a damn closet with a bunch of soundproof.
I know. God, it was so hot in there.
Yeah, imagine it was.
And honestly, it's like it came out okay, but it's like I don't think it made a huge difference.
Yeah, maybe not. Not with all the sound elimination you can do now.
Yeah, like now that I kind of know more about doing like audio processing and stuff, it's just kind of like I could probably, as long as there's not like a huge amount.
We got paranoid because we had to do some studio stuff one time for fucking Mountain Poltergeist. Had to go to a professional studio and do some shit. They were fucking.
They put us in a glass booth and
and they were real fucking anal retentive about fucking sound quality and shit.
Like you have to stand this far from the microphone and blah blah blah. And like I know that like it does sound better, but
yeah, that was for fucking
that was
PBS. Like, no, what was it?
Yeah, that was like some big. It might have been PBS.
No, it wasn't PBS.
What was that for?
It was for the radio.
NPR.
NPR. Yes, for NPR.
Yeah, it was for NPR.
Yeah, that's right, bitches. We were on NPR.
We were, yeah.
We were on L.A. radio stations. Boy, that was a fucking disaster. And remember, and fucking
that was weird.
Yeah, it was just like very unprofessional, and it was a fucking Los Angeles radio station.
It was some radio show, and it seemed like one of those like weird morning zoo things.
Yeah, it was like a morning zoo show.
And it's like they ostensibly wanted. It was me and Steve Mara, parapsychologist who I wrote some books with.
Yeah.
And they wanted us on. Like they asked us on. Like they emailed us.
Yeah.
And all this other kind of stuff, and we did it by phone.
They didn't ask us hardly any questions.
They didn't hardly talk to us. Yeah. They just talked about football and like some other jock shit, and I'm just like, what? And then it was over. And I was just like,
that was it?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think I said like 5 fucking words.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. It's like, why did you call us? Like, you guys just want to talk about football.
Yeah, Papa, I called you pansexual.
What's a pansexual? Susan says, what's a pansexual?
Pansexual is the dude who's up for anything.
You're just up for anything.
Yeah.
You just have sex with anything. I mean, it's kind of.
He's not pansexual, though, probably.
No, we're just teasing.
He's one of those polyamory.
Yeah, it's just
polyamorous.
I don't think they mind this. They said that on the show, so it's all right.
Yeah. It's a throuple.
Yeah, Papa 77 said, I'm straight as a gate.
Yeah.
But like I said, they're polyamorous in that. They have a polyamorous relationship. So yeah. Which they've said on here, so I don't think they'll be mad.
Well, I grew up that way too, so.
Yeah, it's all right. And like I said, we're not real.
Yeah. We're not real limited.
No.
That way.
And honestly, I'm just kind of like...
If we like the person, the shit could happen. You never can tell.
Never can
It all
tell.
depends on how cool they are.
And how drunk we are.
And how drunk we are at the time. How good that club night was.
Yeah. Like I said, some nights I might get like real drunk and I get kind of rowdy, you know what I mean?
And she's not so drunk that she can't walk. She's just gets drunk where she's just like fucking, I'm gonna fuck that chick. You know what I mean? Okay, all right, go ahead. See if you can get it. See if you can get it. She's like, yes.
It's more that kind of situation.
It's more like that kind of shit.
Yeah. I never, like I said, it's as drunk as I get. Like I said, I'm not stumbling around. I can still walk and like
Yeah,
normal
she can
and
dance
stuff.
and fucking...
And still dance and stuff and not look like a weirdo, I don't think. But, I don't know. I don't get horny for dude other than you. I don't get horny for dudes other than you. I get like super horny for you too, but like, but mostly I get horny for girls.
Yeah. Her
like as drunk as.
There's times in the past we talked about some of the little fucking girlfriends and shit we had, and people fucking looked at me like, "Oh, he's doing." It wasn't me.
No, it's not him.
It's not me. Fucking.
Honestly, he's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, like,
you do your thing. You know what I mean?
When your wife's bisexual, you know she's got the man element covered. And I'm like, fucking, you need a little girlfriend. You know what I mean? I've told her that many times. You need a little girlfriend. As long as I like her, and she's not fucking trying to fucking break us up or trying to fucking monopolize the time. As long as we're all friends, it's all good with me. I don't even have to be involved in this shit. As long as I like her.
Yeah.
And she's a friend of mine.
Yeah, he's not trying to scam or nothing.
No, I'm not trying to scam.
I know in a lot of situations it is that.
Yeah.
Because we've known a few people where that
She knows
happened.
how I am, though. I actually very controlled around women.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, fucking. I kind of grew up with them throwing themselves at me. No lie, she's seen it.
Yeah.
Before we got so.
Well, they still kind of do.
They still kind of do it. Yeah. But fucking.
So he's seen it all before. So he's just kind of like, okay.
And you
Here
know.
we go.
I've heard some of these feminist women talking about how fucking sexist I am and shit. You don't understand how much I love women. I fucking love women. And I got the best one I've seen so far. Just
so far.
The
better one might come along.
Package. Full fucking package. She's got the mentality. She's got look. Her fucking personality. We were friends before we even were a thing.
Okay. Yeah, he wanted to hang out with me even before.
Even before we were a thing.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out all the time. And then we hook up, but it was just like free. It was just kind of like free love. And then she'd go out and date other people. I'd date other people. We're still just hanging out steady. And the people we're dating are jealous.
Yeah, it was like I was always at his
friendship.
house or he was at my apartment or something. We were always hanging out. Or like talking to each other over Messenger. It's like, we're like, what the fuck are you doing? Let's go get somebody to eat.
So for y'all looking for love and shit, you got really for the real thing. And I've been married before.
Me too.
It's got to be a friend.
Because like I said, you're going to be doing...
You're going to be doing so much other shit.
Boring shit with that person.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing unpleasant shit with that person. This better be a person that you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. If we get sick, we got to go to the hospital. Fucking, it's just got to be somebody who's a fucking good friend or a person.
Like, we have a lot of fun, but like I said, when bad shit happens, you have to be sure.
Go through that too.
Like, that dude's got to have your back or that
you can't be a fair weather friend.
No. So
that's
why.
not in our nature. Our nature is we're looking out for each other. Even though, and here's another thing, fucking I heard these fucking young chicks talking about politics. We're on different kind of political deals. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing.
No.
Fucking, I don't give a shit. She doesn't really give a shit because we only care about our relationship. You know?
Yeah. CB says, Tom, tell the truth. Jenny is the one in charge of you and the house.
No,
I don't know.
We share.
Yeah,
power.
I don't know if I would say that.
We share power.
We share power equally.
Yeah, we have different responsibilities and different things that we do.
And I don't want to be in charge of shit. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
Jen likes dominant guys as long as she trusts them and they're cool.
But I am also dominant.
She's dominant also. Yeah.
In my own weird fucking way.
Yeah. Jen is a high energy, and fucking stubborn, and fucking strong-willed.
Yeah, like if I don't want to do something you tell me, I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna fight with you. I'm just not gonna do it.
We're real similar. We're the same ethnic group. This fucking Scots, Irish, fucking Southern, pig-headed, fucking same thing. Fucking tribal, hostile, fucking kind of. But we're cool. We care. If we know you, it's all good. If we know you and like you, then we got your back. Yeah.
But like I said, we kind of have an interesting dynamic because, like I said, we're both dominant, but in different ways, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear some of these incel dudes talking about fucking, you know, oh, that women trying to be too masculine, this and that, and this. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's virgin talking. Those dudes don't know anything about fucking
virgin talking.
It's like virgin. They're like virgins. What the fuck you talking about?
Well, of course they are.
Yeah. Fuck you talking about? Yeah. We gotta get back to the fucking.
I mean, I'm almost done.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm almost done.
You're
And then
almost
if you want to go off on a different topic,
we can talk about it later.
yeah. Okay. So where was I? Okay. So he got extradited back to Austria, and he was charged with 11 murders. Now the two girlfriends that's where we got sidetracked. The two girlfriends that he had at the time, one of whom was a lawyer. And I think the other... Oh, this is the same girlfriend they had before. She was actually a journalist. So these were actually not underage for a change. Because normally his girlfriends were much younger than him because he's that kind of dude. They were actually all about supporting it. Oh, he's innocent. The cops are trying to railroad him, blah, blah, blah. Until, as I said, they actually thought, maybe we should go back and read the original court transcripts from the 1970s of the original murder that he was convicted for, that they put him in prison for 15 years and they let him out. And when they read the details of that, they were like, oh, fuck him, pretty much. So it was that. I kind of feel like that always happened. Now, interestingly, they thought, because Jack Unterweger had actually lied to get into the U.S., because when you are, you know, filling out the visa thing or whatever, like on the plane, they was like, have you been convicted of a crime, blah, blah, blah. And he said no, which is a lie. And if they catch you in that, you can be arrested just for that. Because, you know, I think that's a federal offense. Pretty sure. If you lie about a criminal record, like when you're coming into the country. So yeah. But the thing about it, so when they were in the U.S., his other teenage girlfriend, because I guess he had another one, kept wiring them money. I guess that's how they tracked them, like eventually, because you sent them like money at Western Union and stuff like that, and that's how they eventually ended up catching them, like at a Western Union. Like he ran away, but they eventually caught him. So yeah, they also found, they searched his apartment because he had an apartment with his 18-year-old girlfriend in Malibu, and they found a bunch of stuff that belonged to the sex workers in L.A. Like that they could tie.
How old is he more or less at this point?
He's in his 30s.
30s, okay.
Well, wait a minute. He was born in 1950.
Yeah.
And this was early 90s. So yeah, he's 30s.
All right.
I think.
30s or 40s?
40s. I can't math.
Okay.
I'm too drunk to math. I'm too drunk to math.
It's all right.
Well, it must have been only... No, I guess he was in his early 40s. I guess he's in his early 40s. And he had an 18,
around women less than half of his age.
Yeah, they could be his kid. Which is, that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, she's an adult, but that's still pretty creepy.
You have too much fucking psychological influence over them.
Yeah, like I said, there's too much of a power dynamic. It's just not... It's unavoidable. You can't... Yeah. There's no 18-year-old that has their shit that much together.
No.
To, like, have...
No, I mean...
To get one over on, like, a dude in his 40s.
I don't have any daughters or anything, so I don't want to fucking... I can't compare it to, like, well, that's like my daughter. I don't really think that way. It's just that when me and Jen run across them that young, even if they're just cute as shit, I just feel more protective of them than anything else. Yeah. Fucking, you know, and yes, they're dating and shit. So, but I don't really see him that way. I just see him as like, oh, that poor girl. Oh, we gotta watch out for her. Oh, she's, you know.
Yeah, he's very like fatherly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, man, that poor girl. Like, look at that shit she's putting up with.
Look what happened to her.
Yeah.
There's one of them that we know is locked up right now.
Well, it's better. We thought she was dead. We didn't know where she was for a long time.
She's 23 now. She's been in big trouble. Fucking, she was...
We couldn't find her, and then, like, Tom's like, I'm going to find her. Like, I'm going to find out what happened to her.
I found her uncle and said, what happened to her? And he goes, is she dead?
Because for months, we had no idea where she was.
Because her ex told us she was dead.
Yeah, we thought she was dead. Because he didn't know where she was either.
He thought she was dead.
She's a bad druggie.
Yeah, bad druggie and prostitute. And fucking, she's locked up right now. She's going through rehab, 6 months.
Yeah, we found her.
He said when he found out more, this is a couple days ago, he said, when I find out more, I'll tell you. Fucking, maybe me and Jen will go visit her in rehab or something. I don't know. Because a lot of times they get real fucking, they feel like nobody knows them, nobody cares about them. They're very, it's prison.
I mean, we didn't know her that well. But
she was a good person. And she was just young.
And I felt so bad because she was so young, and it's just kind of like, I felt bad that all that happened to her.
Her uncle said she was addicted by the time she was 14.
Yeah.
because her parents were addicts.
Yeah.
So
we met her when she was like 18, 19.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we were friends with her and her then boyfriend at the time.
We still see him. He's okay.
Still around. Yeah.
He's okay. Yeah.
He's a good guy.
It's just.
And he was worried about her too, because he's like, man, I don't know where she is. I think she might be dead. Like, because I haven't heard from her for months and months, and nobody knows where she's at.
Right.
And so, like, Tom actually did find her though.
Yeah, I found her.
Jail.
I saw her mugshot. She looks like shit.
She's in jail.
She used to be a cute chick. I
said, well, it's better than being dead, I guess.
Yeah, she looks like shit. But maybe when I find out more, maybe we'll go see her.
But yeah, it was just a couple days ago that he was just like, he just came in and he's like, oh my god, I found her.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh
it
my
just
god.
came to my mind. I said, what the fuck happened? I went and checked her fucking Facebook page to see if anybody was posting anything on her page, and everybody's looking for her.
Yeah, nobody knew where she was.
And there was a guy there, fucking his picture was, he had a Marine uniform on. So I said, I asked him. I said, you have any idea where she is? Turned out that was her uncle.
Oh, okay.
That's how I found out. Fucking, and it took me a while to explain who we were. He's like,
yeah,
you were not pimping her out. Who are you talking about?
It's like, oh, hell no. We just like,
yeah.
She was just a cool chick we met one time.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't realize she had normal friends. And well, during the time we knew her, she was starting to make normal friends.
Yeah.
But.
That's really, oh my god. He really said that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so sad.
He didn't know that she had normal friends.
Yeah.
So that was part of the reason.
I mean, not that we're normal or anything, but I mean, we're not drug addicts.
We're not drug addicts.
Or pimps or criminals or anything like that, so.
Yeah.
We just thought she was a cool chick.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah.
her
Well,
boyfriend.
actually,
we met them at Mannequins.
She was cool, but we actually liked her boyfriend.
Yeah.
He was fucking super cool. He knew everything about goth music from the time.
And he's young.
Yeah.
Well, that's what kind of...
Well, he had just turned 21. He could drink.
We met him at Mannequins, and the reason why we went over and talked to them is because he was, like, clearly super, super young, and I think he had a Christian Death shirt and, like, a big mohawk, and I was like...
He looked great.
I was like, that dude's a baby. It's like, how does he know that shit? Like, he looks all death rock.
He knew everything about it.
So we went over and talked to him, and he was like, he knew everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And he had just turned 21. He knew everything about, like, all the old, like, 80s goth music and death rock and everything.
So they came over to the house eventually. Fucking, Jen gave her some of her old boots. Jen gave her some cool old boots, even though she fucked them up. Because Jen hadn't worn them in so long, they were Demonia platforms, tall, and the fucking heel fell off of them. Poor girl. We didn't have the glue to fix it. She had when it was outside. But, there's just another time. That was years ago now.
Yeah, a few years back.
Maybe 2 years,
something like that. But yeah, I'm glad she's still alive.
Yeah, we mentioned him on the show before.
Yeah, I just kind of hope she just gets her shit together. I mean, she's still so young; she could get her shit together. You know
it's hard. I think she was basically almost born addicted. So
I know, but like I said, she's still young. Maybe she can.
She's a casualty, I think. But it's people like that get real low morale, and if they have people rooting for them, sometimes it helps them.
Susan said earlier, let's face it, your fur babies are your bosses. That's true.
Yeah.
The cats do kind of run the shit.
I smell that fucking pork down there heating.
Oh, you went down there?
Yeah, I turned that fucking pork.
Well, we can have some in a minute.
Yeah.
We can have some in a minute.
I made some some roast. And it's fucking, it's Eastern European stuff. Go to the restroom.
All right, so, where was I? Okay, so... They searched his apartment in Malibu after they arrested him and found a bunch of stuff that belonged to the women that he had killed, and also they found a diary that he wrote, and he said that he was planning, or the implication was that he had written that he was planning to get rid of his 18-year-old girlfriend. I guess unlike the two grown-ass women girlfriends that he had back in Austria who were like supporting him. Like I said, this dude, like I said, he didn't have any trouble getting women. He was apparently super, super charming. And particular types, we did a whole show about hybristophilia, which is women that are attracted to serial killers, pretty much. And pretty much any serial killer that looks sort of normal, and even some that don't, get fucking fan letters for whatever reason. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Like, I kind of get it, like, after I read it, after I researched for the show, but I don't feel that way, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, intellectually I can understand it, but emotionally I'm just like, what the fuck, girl? Like, just don't. This is not, so, oh, he'll kill everyone but me. Like, yeah, let's not. That's not how that works. Because in this case, he's with this girl who's 18, And I'm sure she was just kind of like, well, I know he killed somebody, but he would never hurt me. Yeah, he was planning on killing her, though, but he did not. Now, actually, before he was extradited to Austria, like, while they held him for a bit in Miami, like, while they were doing the extradition and all that, they actually collected DNA samples from him, and they were able to match that DNA to some semen that they found on one of the sex workers, Shannon Exley. So I don't think the semen was found inside her. I think it was found on her. So again, I think he's like not raping these women in the classical sense, but I think he's masturbating on them while raping them with objects is what his MO seems to be. And that seems to be what happened here. But they did find his DNA on her, so that's pretty damning. Now, at first, I love this. So Jack says, well, I don't think he really thought this through. He's like, I want to be tried in California because I'll only be tried for 3 murders instead of however many that he had killed in Austria. But in California, they're like, well, you realize we have the gas chamber, right? Like, you'll get the death penalty. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, never mind. I'm going to come back to Austria. You know what I mean? Which is weird, like, considering what happened later. But, yeah. So, I just thought, they're like, yeah, you'll get the fucking gas chamber. So, so he's like, okay. So, they extradited him, like I said. Now, so his big defense was, one, he's completely innocent. The police are framing him, blah, blah, blah. He's a big victim. Because one of his big argument was, he's like, look, I have money, I have status, I have like all these big important friends. Why would I want to destroy the life I've created by going out and just killing sex workers? Like, why would I do that? I'm famous, I can get whatever woman I want. Like, why would I do that? Like, that was his big defense. You know what I mean? Which, you know, on the surface sounds kind of legit, but then you're like, well, it seemed to him, I mean, it seemed like an addiction. Like, he couldn't stop himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's almost like a sexual orientation where it's just kind of like, yeah, he could get women just
That's
the regular way. He had girlfriends.
Yeah.
Women loved him. It didn't matter, you know, obviously.
It's not what he was after.
No, clearly. And I think that he got off, like I said, I think he got off on control.
Well, that's part of his orientation.
And I think he got off on fooling everybody, having this double life, having everybody think he was this great, famous, rich dude, and then he was doing all this shit on the DL.
Think of it as a pathological liar who is big into very extreme BDSM. That's really what his sexual orientation is. You got to kill somebody for him to get off.
Yeah.
Like, really get off.
And it really does seem...
Yeah, that's what it was.
Like that.
He could have sex with regular women and everything, but that wasn't anything to him. It wasn't... It couldn't get him off good enough.
Yeah. So it had to be like that big fucking thrill, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a thrilling thing for him. It had to be. A power trip.
Oh, and Susan says, my God, who's that piece of shit that was killing cats? They made a documentary about him, too.
Oh, that guy.
Luca Manana, something like that.
He killed his Chinese boyfriend, and then they got him, yeah.
I love that, there was
Luca Manana, whatever.
Was it Manana or Manana or something like that?
Some shit like that. He thought he was a gay porn star, fucking, up in the hot tub with girls. And, like, he thinks he's prettier than them. There was all kinds of weird shit. That dude. That
documentary, it's on Netflix, and it's called Don't Fuck With Cats.
Yeah.
Because it was like the internet using the powers for good. They actually caught this motherfucker. Yeah. Like, pictures that he posted, like, people figured out where that was. Yeah. Like, they tracked him down. From the cats.
For those of you who don't know, he was killing cats. He's making videos of him killing cats. And what he would do is he put little kittens inside of Ziploc bags and let them fucking suffocate. Or he one time he took a little cute kitten and gave it to a fucking python or a boa constrictor.
And he filmed that too.
They filmed that and fucking boom.
Like, they don't show the whole thing. Like, they kind of blur it out in the documentary because I'm like, I don't think I can watch this.
His whole thing was to take little cute things and kill them.
I can't imagine. Dude.
Little skinny bitch. I'd have fucked his ass up.
I mean,
he's lucky he didn't run across me.
Like I said, even if he never killed a person, you just deserve to be put down for that.
start killing a bunch of animals, and you're eventually going to kill a person. So I consider it fucking crime prevention.
It's never a good sign.
No,
nobody that does that kind of shit ever ends well.
You're gonna have to go. And I'm a hunter. I've killed animals, but I ate them. You know, they were deer, game animals. You know, shot some shit by accident a couple times, misidentification, but no, man, you go around killing little kittens by putting them in Ziploc bags. That's fucking just cruelty and shit. You dangerous. You gotta go.
You're obviously a sociopath.
You gotta go. Yeah.
Because normal people cannot do anything like that.
You stop it.
She's over there too. She's like, you guys are not paying any attention to me? Come on.
Yeah, she knows.
She's pulling on my
She
books.
knows this.
That's why all my shitty old books are on the bottom
She
shelf.
wants treats. She wants meat sticks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a meat stick. The show's almost over. We got these little things, these little fucking fish sticks that she likes.
Sheba.
Stop it, Sheba fish sticks.
They look like
look at her. She's fucking totally disobeying her dad.
She's so defiant.
You going through there again? Oh, you running? Running's gonna make it better. Oh, getting down on the ground is gonna make it better. I got you.
Oh, you're in trouble now,
Pookie. You're in big trouble.
She's like, no, I'm not.
Trying to get attention. Look at her face. Look at her face. She's like, oh, I didn't do it. Yeah, you did it. You did it. Daddy knows you did it.
She's incorrigible.
Yeah.
You tell her not to do something, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in trouble," and then 5 seconds later,
smacking
she's
the shades
does it again.
Why are you always smacking shit? Why are you always trying to make?
She's like,
trouble?
because it works.
Yeah, she wants attention.
Because she just gets attention from Daddy. That's why.
Yeah.
She knows how to do it.
Yeah.
She's
manipulative.
She is very manipulative.
You get down.
Papa77 said, "Yep, we see the fur baby is in charge."
Yeah.
She totally is. And she goes right.
She manipulates.
Yeah. Well, she's really smart. Yeah. So like I said, so they had the DNA, they had all the very distinctive, like I said, the knots that he tied were very weird and very distinctive, and that, they saw that in LA and they saw that in Austria and the other crimes too, so they're like, obviously this is the same fucking dude. So they had and they had the red fibers from the scarf that they found in his apartment, so they had all kind of fucking evidence against this motherfucker. So they started the trial in June of 1994. The trial took place in Graz in Austria, and so as I said, because Austrian law had a thing where if you're an Austrian citizen, you committed crimes in other countries, they had the option of trying you for those crimes in Austria, and that's what they did. They actually tried him for all the LA murders and all the murders he did in Austria, as well as the one that he did in Prague. Now, he was trying to, like I said, be his little charming sociopathic self, on the stand, saying it's basically yes, I know I'm a terrible person. I'm a liar. He said something like, I consume women rather than loving them. Shit like that. I think he was trying to do a thing where I admit I'm a bad person, but I'm not that bad of a person. I think he was counting on the jury being like, oh, but he's being so honest about this other shit. So if he says he didn't do that, then he must be telling the truth about that too. I think that's what he was counting on.
No, you're just crafty.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think people were starting to see through that at this point. And again, he was trying to say that the police were setting him up and all this other kind of stuff. And, why would I do all of this? I have everything I want. I'm famous. I have money, blah, blah, blah. It's I have women. I don't really need to do this stuff. But the thing about it was that they bring out the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is like, look, this dude is... he has an addiction. He's pretty much a psychopath. He's a compulsive killer. He's not going to stop unless he is stopped. He can't help himself. It doesn't matter. They even came on the stand and said, look, you're seeing him as though he's a rational human being. He's not a rational human being. It's he's compulsive. It's he can't help himself. He's just doing this and he's not going to stop. So it's you really have to put him away. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to stop. So they bring all this other stuff. He would not admit to anything. And as I said, as the trial went on, as more details came out, his supporters slowly began to fall away, because they realized what they were dealing with. You know what I mean? At this stage, where I think he'd been able to bamboozle them before, but as the truth started coming out, they're just oh man, this dude's crazy. So as it turned out, I guess in Austria you don't have to, because in the U.S. you have to have, it has to be unanimous, but otherwise it's a hung jury and they have to do whatever. But in most other countries it's a majority, as it is in Austria. So Austria, they actually found him guilty of 9 murders. The other 2, they were accused him of 11, but the other 2, they didn't have enough evidence. So he was guilty of 9 murders by a 6-2 majority. The murders he was found guilty of were the woman in Prague, the 3 women in Los Angeles, and 5 women in Austria. Like I said, the other 2, they didn't have enough evidence. And because it was a majority, that was sufficient. Basically, they did a psychiatric examination of him and diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder, which no duh. And so there was that. So he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. We're not going to let him out this time. The thing about it, though, was that the very day that he was sentenced, the night after he was sentenced, only hours later, the dude took his own life in his cell.
Yeah. He lost control.
That's exactly what everyone said. They're like, it wasn't that he was like, oh, poor me, I'm going to prison. No. He was like, he wasn't in control anymore, and he didn't like that.
Yeah.
So he waited till the guards were gone. It was like 3 a.m, and then he took the string out of his like prison jumpsuit or something like that, and he hanged himself with that, using the same knot that he had used to kill all of his victims.
Yeah, probably the only knot he knew.
As maybe. Or maybe it was a final kind of fuck you, maybe. Yeah. That sounds more likely.
Yeah, fuck that dude.
So here's something interesting, though. Because before he killed himself, he said he was going to appeal the guilty verdict. So under Austrian law, because he had stated his intention to file an appeal, so the guilty verdict wasn't legally binding. So after he's dead, so he's technically still considered innocent, even though they found him guilty. But he died before they did the appeal. Yeah. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. I did not know this. You guys remember Falco, the guy that did Rock Me Amadeus and and all that, and the original Der Kommissar back in the 80s? He did a song called Jenny, which I actually had I used to have, I might still have it somewhere. I used to have the 45 single. For all you kids, that was like a little bitty record.
Yeah.
I used to have that thing of that. That song was about a rapist murderer, and it was kind of about Jack Unterweger, which I didn't realize, like when I listened to that song. Like the millions of times I've heard that song, I didn't realize it was about him. They also made a stage play about this shithead called Infernal Comedy, and John Malkovich played him, and he met him. This was before, I think, this was after after he was released from prison, but before anybody knew that he was murdering more people. So John Malkovich met him and was talking about how crazy it was that he had met Jack Unterweger. It's like, hey, I'm playing you in a play, and he'd already killed like several people at that point. Like after, and he was just like freaked out by that when he found out later. But it's like, I didn't realize they made a play about him, and I also didn't realize that Falco song was about him either.
So this guy is the European Ted Bundy.
Pretty much, and a lot of people have made that comparison. Yeah. Right. Very, very similar.
He's the suave European Ted Bundy. He wasn't fucking decapitated heads or anything.
Not that they know of. Like I said, he didn't do anything but he did... he did leave women in, like, really humiliating positions. Yeah. Like, he would often leave them, like, with their legs spread wide open, or, like, their ass up in the air or something like that. So when somebody found them, it'd be, like, really degrading. Yeah. Like, he did that a lot.
Dive in. Yeah.
Yeah, like, he did that a lot. And like I said, I kind of feel like there was an impotence issue, too, because he raped a lot of them with iron rods or tree branches or something like that. And they found semen in some of the cases, but it was usually on them. I don't think it was ever in them.
Right.
So I think that he was having issues. But as I said, I don't think it was an all-the-time issue, because he did seem to have a lot of girlfriends, and none of them said anything about him not being able to...
When he was using these foreign objects, was that enough to kill them or heavily damage them, and was like a rupture and shit in there? Or was
I'm not sure. I would imagine that wasn't what killed them, though. The strangling was what killed them. Yeah. He strangled all of them.
Yeah, probably tore them up pretty bad.
I would imagine. I mean, having an iron bar shoved up your cooch or up your asshole, because he did it in, like, he anally raped a lot of them.
Okay. Yeah.
And in some cases they didn't specify. Like in the first case, it was specified that it was anal. with the iron bar.
Something sharp and stiff like that, man, you could rupture fucking intestines and stuff. You have sepsis going on. You'd have a serious
Because it's not like you're with a partner that you're like into that. It's like that's being careful.
With a nice rubber dick and shit, fucking
with lube and stuff.
Yeah,
they're
right.
trying to hurt you.
Right.
So it's like obviously they're gonna rupture some shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Nasty bitch.
Papa77 said, "What does BTK think about this guy just jerking it?" Let's see what
BTK?
let's see what Dennis has to
for
say.
a fucking BTK to
Let's
show.
see what Dennis has to say about this. What do you have to say about this, Dennis?
Well, you have to understand. He's not a man like me. I was good for the community. I was doing things. He was just running around being a pimp. I was never a pimp. I was a church-going man. And I cared about people, and I wanted my community to remain strong. Okay? So,
And you wanted everyone's grass to be exactly the right length.
grass had to be a certain length.
Sure. That's the rules.
That was part of the standards. I'm just trying to keep high standards. And this guy, he was a sleazeball. You know, he belonged in a nightclub or, you know, a fucking brothel, or he was a pimp, and pimps aren't respectable.
That's what he's saying.
Thank you, Dennis. We always love your.
Dennis was
your
respectable
insight.
church-going man.
Yeah.
Respectable. He was trying to keep law and order established, man. How long your grass was and where you kept your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a real stickler about that.
He's a stickler, brotch. Yeah, he's trying to keep these bitches fucking under control. Yeah.
CB says maybe he didn't want to fuck a dead body like Ted Bundy did. Yeah, this dude didn't give me any necrophilia vibes. He just really got, because Ted Bundy was totally a necrophile. He didn't like to admit it, and a lot of things don't bring it up, but he totally was.
Yeah. He would take heads home.
Yeah, and keep them.
And keep them in the refrigerator and put them up on a mantle.
Use them as
and
sex
have sex with that head. Yeah. Weird shit, man.
This guy, like I said, this guy seemed more like he would get in a situation where he just hated women, and he couldn't get his dick up whenever he wanted to, and that made him mad, and he took it out on them.
I'm not sure he hated women. I think what it was is he loved himself so much that he put himself way above women that they were just something he could consume.
Well, that kind of amounts to the same thing.
Because it didn't sound like from his life history he had any justification to hate women. And women liked him. So.
Yeah. But it just seems like he didn't really see women as people, though.
Yeah.
He just saw them as objects.
Psychopaths like this don't see themselves as people either, though. They kind of see them...
Or they see themselves as the only person.
Yeah,
like everyone else is an NPC.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty common.
Yeah. Although they're kind of NPCs also. They're an automaton. I don't think they have true consciousness in the way that other people do. They have a different version of it that's kind of limited.
I always kind of wonder. I wonder what
they're doing.
What their capacity is for that.
What they're doing is easy for them. For a normal person, it's harder to do that kind of shit. Like I said, I can kill people. That's no problem. Being part of the military and in elite infantry type situations, and that's part of your job, you know. But it's not for sexual motives, you know what I mean? And fucking the shit that they're doing there, you know what I mean? He's doing. He can do that easily because there's not much of him there, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Like an insect or a lizard, something like, you know. And even a lizard wouldn't do that. So it's just
that's what I'm saying. It's like, don't blame animals, because most
yeah.
animals wouldn't do that kind of shit.
Yeah, some do, but fucking no. In general, no.
I mean, a lot of animals they'll kill for food or to protect their babies or their territory or whatever. But it's like they don't just randomly go around killing other animals. Like, not usually, unless there's something wrong with them.
I've heard of stag deer, male deer, killing female deer because they won't stand up. He's in rut. He wants her to stand up so he can copulate with her. They won't do it.
She won't
so
cooperate.
They keep till eventually just fucking boom, stab them with their horns until it kills them. And I don't know why they won't stand up. They might be that they're already pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're like, bro, leave me alone.
Now, did he intend it? Did he get off? Did that deer get off sexually by doing that to that female? I don't think so.
No, I think he was just mad.
He just wanted to get up. He
was just frustrated.
Yeah, so I could get it. Yeah. So it's a very different thing, I guess.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes when people talk about serial killers, like, oh, they're animals. I'm like, hey, don't insult the animals like that. Even animals don't do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, weird. Weird. I don't know. I don't like to think about it that much.
Susan says, and Ted's mom still didn't believe he was a piece of shit, even in the very end.
Yeah. No, Ted was a piece of shit. Man. He
was a
fucking
huge
slaughtered a
piece of shit.
13-year-old girl in a pig slaughterhouse.
He wouldn't admit that either.
Wouldn't admit to that.
He totally did that, though. He totally did that.
He made her get down in doggy position, fucking was going at her, and fucking took a knife and slit her throat like a pig in a pig slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I think he thought that was funny.
He thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, he was just...
Motherfucker was a bitch. He was a hoe, too. He was a bitch, he was a hoe, and he was a pussy. I'd fuck that dude up if I found him. But I'm getting mad. I shouldn't be getting mad. Those guys are dead already. That's a long time ago.
Ted Bundy's dead. This dude's dead.
Yeah,
I mean, Ted Bundy got taken out. He got killed in Old Sparky.
Yeah.
Back when we used to do the electric chair. I remember when that happened because I remember there was a whole fucking party. People were having fucking barbecues out in front of the prison with signs being like, you know, hey, Fry Bundy, all this other kind of. Everyone was so happy. There was a couple people that were like, hey, no death penalty, but like most people were just like, yeah, fuck him. You know what I mean?
Almost all these dudes that we're talking about are fucking pussies. They're just fucking. D'Angelo wasn't a pussy. He was military and law enforcement. That motherfucker was a commando. He was probably physically the most adept of all the serial killers. Joseph, was his name Joseph? No,
yeah.
Joseph D'Angelo. I think it was Joseph, wasn't it?
I think so.
The original Night Stalker. That dude was a badass.
Or a Golden State Killer, as they call him.
Yeah,
now.
Golden State Killer.
So to not confuse him with the other Night Stalker.
Kuklinski, who was more of a fucking mafia hitman. I'm not sure.
It's not really a serial killer. He was a hitman.
He was pretty tough.
We did a show about him too.
Almost all the other ones are just fucking pussies. I'd run through those dudes like a fucking shit through goose. You know.
Well, like I said,
there's nothing to those guys.
they had anything to them, they wouldn't have to be doing that.
Yeah,
they wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something fucking wrong with
them.
CB said Jack's prison tattoos showed his real personality in photos with his shirt off. Yeah, and he was kind of proud of that too. Didn't he have like a big one on his chest or whatever? But yeah, because he was in prison for 15 years. Didn't fix him though, obviously. So he got out after 15 years and immediately went right back to it. Immediately.
Yeah.
Pretty much immediately. So.
Now, what was his name? Panzeram. Back in the early 1900s. He was pretty much a badass for his time, but I'd still fuck him up. There wasn't anything to him physically either. But
I just listened to the
he was a mean dude. Really.
I just listened to the Time Suck about him too.
Fucking.
It was called One Man Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That bitch hated everybody.
His whole thing was hatred towards men, because he had been sexually assaulted from an early age in like what do you call them? Fucking orphanages.
Yeah.
And juvenile prisons. So he grew up just to be just a evil. He's the most evil, most violent gay dudes that could ever exist. I'm not even sure I classify him as gay. I don't think he was getting into what he was doing. I think it was all about vengeance and hatred.
Yeah, I think I don't even think he had any kind of sexual feelings in that regard. I think it was just like a power thing and like a violence, men. And it was just sadistic.
I think so. But he would do it to little boys.
Yeah.
And do shit. He just hated all males. And no crimes against women.
I don't think so.
No, he didn't kill any women.
He killed a lot of people, too.
But it was dudes. It was all dudes.
I think he would make men.
Dudes sexually assault each other at gunpoint and then kill them.
Yeah, he would make them rape each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And then kill them.
He was bizarre.
But,
he was probably the most evil man to have ever lived.
The weird thing about it, like I said, I was just listening to the Time Suck about him like a couple of days ago, just because I was working and I needed something to listen to. And he made a good point. It's like, this dude, it's like, as fucked up and mean and evil as he was actually really insightful about it, which a lot of killers aren't. He knew. It's like, I just hate everybody. I hate myself.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to die.
Yeah.
Like, he was real upfront about it.
Yeah, when he was in prison, he made friends with one of the jailers. And that jailer is the one that reorganized the American prison system into the penitentiary system. And it was because he knew Panzeram. Fucking, he thought that maybe he said that we have to make prison easier on these guys. If not, it makes demons.
It makes them worse.
Like Panzeram.
Yeah.
Because you got to let them out eventually, a lot of them.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I think that was one of the lessons they learned from
Yeah.
Carl Panzram. Maybe it took a
Yeah.
long time, but it's just kind of like, you can't, like, yeah, it has to be kind of punishment, but you can't just make the conditions in there. If those people are ever going to be let out,
You can't make it hellish.
you can't just make it this hellish thing where you're just
Yeah.
making them worse and worse.
Yeah, they'll come out and they'll fucking take a vengeance on everybody.
Because then it'll just be like you're
Yeah.
putting innocent people at risk, like when you
Yeah.
let them back out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What about you? But I'm hungry, man, and I got that food waiting down there. You want
Okay,
to
wait, hold on. American Military says famous FBI profiler John Douglas interviewed hundreds of killers. He said the only offender he ever wanted to punch in the face was John Wayne Gacy.
Oh yeah, that dude.
I could see that.
Yeah, he was a bitch ass motherfucker.
I kind of feel like I want to punch all of them in the face, but
He was a bitch ass motherfucker.
I could see that. Like, he seemed like super fucking
yeah,
annoying.
murderer and molester of boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing to him either. He thought he was a badass, but he was overreacted.
They all think they're badasses.
They all think he's a badass.
They all think they're badasses, and they all think they're smart,
Yeah.
and they all think this, that, and the other. And a lot of times, it's like they think they're smart because they don't get caught for a long time.
Yeah.
But really, like, the only reason they don't get caught for a long time is, one, a lot of them are murdering sex workers, which is a harder crime to solve. It's not necessarily because law enforcement is stupid or anything. I mean, sometimes they are,
They
but
see
it's just...
so many guys a day, you can't keep track.
Yeah, it's just like yeah. So it's just circumstances. They're just lucky in a lot of cases. And nowadays, like I said, it's a lot easier to catch them. So it's like, I think they're catching them, a lot of them, before they can kill a bunch of people.
And the higher end escorts, they're a lot harder to kill because they have your fucking ID on record, because you have to do a fucking face-to-face cam-to-cam fucking thing with them, and they send fucking put your photo up to the fucking camera,
Yeah.
and they get a screenshot of that shit, and they give that fucking photograph to their husband, because a lot of those
and
girls
probably
are married.
like some other people too.
And other people, and other girls, if they don't not married, they give it to other girls, other sex worker girls.
Yeah, like other people.
And I'm going with this dude.
So it's like, hey, if I don't show back
Yeah.
up, this
Yeah.
is the dude to call the cops about.
Yeah, and they know that regulars sometimes kill them, so they actually give the fucking their weekly fucking schedule to another girl, or
Yeah.
like I said, their husband.
Like I said, you got to cover your
People
ass,
don't
man.
realize that fucking over half of those high-end escorts are married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Married and have kids. So the husband is kind of like, I won't call him a pimp, but he's kind of like the manager and
He's like the
overseer,
manager.
and fucking doing the background checks on these guys.
Yeah. Well, you got to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said, it's fucking dangerous.
Yeah. And these people are from the porn industry anyway, so he knows she has sex with other people. It's just, for them, it's just a job.
Yeah.
And if it's with porn people, they're already tested and vetted. So they're not. That's not a danger. It's just these fucking fans that show up and want to fuck a porn star. You know,
Then it's
he's
like,
got to know everything about you before he lets you go with his wife.
well, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
blame them.
Where you work and everything. Yeah.
What fucking
And if you won't answer all them questions and you don't fucking check out, then you're not going to
you
get
want
the
like
date.
full like fucking medical
Yeah.
exam on that shit too, because you don't know what fucking diseases that motherfucker has.
Well, they use condoms.
I mean, yeah,
It
but
does.
that doesn't prevent everything.
Doesn't present anything, but it's a fucking
I
$1,500.
mean, it's better than nothing.
It's
but
$1,500 to a $1,000 date.
That's true.
So
I'm not gonna do it. Fuck that.
no, don't do it.
No, don't do
Ain't worth
that.
it.
You don't have to tell me. I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to do
Well,
that.
you couldn't do it just because you can't pretend to like somebody and fucking those
Yeah, I wouldn't be good
motherfuckers
at
are
that.
losers.
Like I said, and Tom told me, he's like, the only thing you'd be good at
Dominatrix.
was being a dominatrix.
Be cruel to motherfuckers. She'd be
Just
good at
like
that.
make dudes eat out of dog bowls and step on
Yeah,
their balls
yeah.
and stuff. Just
Step
like,
on
you'd
their
be good
balls.
at that.
Yeah,
And
she'd
I'd be
be
like,
great.
yeah, I would be good at that because
Yeah.
I could just be mean to you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
there's
have
some-
I wouldn't have to pretend to like you.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to have sex with them either. I could just
Nope.
beat them up and they would love it.
Pee in a cup and make them drink it.
Yeah. See, I could
Smack
do
them
that. I
around.
could do that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep. They got
But-
people that would pay big
But
money.
pretending to like you, oh, you have such
Yeah.
a big dick. Yeah, I'm not good at
No.
that. I can't do that. Everything I said would come out sounding like sarcasm.
Yeah, and half of those dudes are kind of like, I don't call them zeros. They're successful businessmen, but physically you look at them and character wise they're no, they're not the kind of dude that fucking Jen would ever be interested in.
No, of course not.
And if I was gonna have my fucking women going out doing that shit like that, I wouldn't want her to fucking be fucking dudes she didn't like.
Your women.
I'm actually fucking.
Your stable of women.
I'm actually. Well, no, I'm talking about you. Saying fucking. I wouldn't want you going out there having sex with dudes you don't like. Fucking,
I don't want to do that either.
I would feel better about it if you liked the dudes. I'm like, okay, they're gonna have fun. I'm fucking bring the money back. You know what I mean? But fucking lowering yourself to those bitches, nah.
CB says Jenny would make a fantastic dominatrix.
Yeah, she'd make a good dominatrix.
I think I would. Yeah. Because like I said, I could like shit on you all day long. Like I'll step on your face, I'll beat your ass, I'll whip you, I'll do all kinds of stuff.
The thing is though, is that fucking
I'll degrade you.
If we ever fucking trained you up as get you reconverted as a dominatrix, fucking I'd fucking go to the fetish community and try to find a good trainer or some chick to train you.
Oh yeah, I would definitely need
you have to go how to tie knots, rope bondage, all the fucking shit, so that way you can make good money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would definitely do like a class or something.
I'd be security. I'd go with you. I ain't gonna go. You ain't gonna do.
Well,
no
yeah, you're not
solo
leaving
shit.
me by
Fuck
myself.
no.
It's like you never know, because like even though these dudes like to be degraded, it's like you
Yeah.
never. They could be serial killers too. You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
They could be like fucking on the down.
I know how to handle clients. I got good fucking customer service, fucking as a professional salesman. So I'd be fucking, I make motherfucker at ease and everything. My wife's gonna fuck you up.
She's gonna
I can
step
get
on
him
your
all
balls
into
so
it,
hard.
'cause, yeah, that's right.
I'm just gonna
Just
squish
sign
those
on
balls.
the dotted line right here. Give me that check, fucking, Yeah.
Man, I love that. I love that porn with like women in stiletto heels stepping on dudes'
Step
balls.
on dude's dick. It's just kicking him in the nuts. and
Every
shit.
time we see that, it's like I love that. It's like Tom's over there squirming, and I'm just like
yeah.
cackling.
I can see
It's
me
so
back
awesome.
there. See me back there. I got the dude's arms pinned behind him like that. You're kicking him in the nuts. And he's screaming and shit.
I could get a lot of my like anger out that way. I feel like that would be really therapeutic.
Yeah. Let's get something to eat, man.
Okay, Papa77 says Shaby and Jenny would get along. She can teach you anything you want to know about how to be a dom.
Yeah.
I might look into like one of these days. I might look into that as a career move.
Into a rope bondage specialist. How
Yeah.
to fucking tie somebody up
All right.
with knots and a rope bondage. And how to fucking, torture some motherfucker once he's tied up.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, do Japanese style rope bondage.
Yeah, I need to learn how to do that because I don't know how to do all knots and stuff. Vashti Armour said, just got here, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yay, public holiday in my local town in Victoria, Australia today. I'm actually able to visit the live show.
Okay, yeah, hey man.
You were on the way on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's like almost 11 p.m. here, and we're going to bed soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we got to eat before we go to bed too.
Yeah.
But this was like a good topic. This was so CB I think like recommended this, and this was good because I didn't know much about this dude. So yeah, holy crap! First global serial killer they call him because he killed people in like at least 4 countries. So there's that, which is kind of unusual. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up for this evening. Thank you everybody for dropping by. Thank you for your super chats. We'll be back on Friday night as usual for our sidetrack show where we just get drunk and talk about crazy shit, and it's always really really fun.
Friday.
I mean, technically we always used to end
Come
up
get
talking
drunk
about
with us on Friday. We're
talking about porn and food and
Yeah.
various other things.
Unless we don't go out on Friday. I get paid and shit. Might go out Friday and Saturday. Who knows?
Oh my god, you always say that, but then I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
if we go out 2 out and it's we're old.
Yeah.
Like I can go out one night.
Yeah.
And have a good time, and then like I'm not that hungover like on Sunday, but 2 nights in a row I don't know if I could manage it, which is crazy because only
We gotta go
like
out Saturday.
10 years ago like we used to go out every
We
night.
go out every fucking.
I think
night of
we
the
went
week.
out every night,
Yeah.
and I went to work the next day.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did that.
Wasn't that long ago?
I don't know how I did that. Like I was in my 40s,
Yeah.
and when I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my god, how am I
You're
still
in better
alive?
shape now than you were back then, though.
I know it's crazy.
It's mentality. We're
I
not
guess.
we're not as excited, and the scene isn't quite as cool to us anymore because we've.
No, it is. I still get
I
excited.
think we burned it up a little bit. There
Well,
was something
maybe.
about the old. Let's shut it down, man. We're gonna get some beat, man. We're gonna talk about the
All right.
scene all day.
All right, we're gonna go get something to eat. So
Yeah.
you guys have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow. We'll see you guys again on Friday night for the sidetrack show. Good.